Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Casting Out Podcast, presented by the 8th LR, hosted by Big Mamba. We got some special guests for here today. We got Walki, AGS Walki. Welcome. Could you just state real quick, what do you do on the AGS team?
Yeah. Hello, man. Thanks for having me. I'm Walki, AGS Developer. Most of people probably never heard my voice because I haven't actually been quite active.
Your voice is very
in the
sexy.
community side of things. So yeah, I'll be here and hopefully gonna ask. So I'm gonna answer some questions about
Yeah.
the
So,
recent update.
what do you do in AGS? Just so everyone knows.
I'm more of like a jack of all trades right now. Like I started off as a level designer. Like I've done Fort Winston, Fort Soletes, stuff like that. Then I did build engineering, like maintaining pipelines. But now I finally ascended to being a programmer. So
Awesome.
I've been doing client-side programming for the coupler.
Welcome to the podcast, my dude. We also have Olive Ford in the corner there.
Hello, James.
I guess you could. I'm pointing this way for me, but So Olive Ford, what do you do?
Just watch the stream.
What do I do? Right now I'm kind of doing freelance music work. I was working at a manager at a Dollar Tree before, but that wasn't really my thing. Kind of hated it, to be honest. But other than that, I'm just a random dude who plays in the pubby.
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen you
with
around.
us.
Yeah, I've seen you around on the public servers line. Des, he recommended you to be on the podcast, so welcome.
That wasn't me, you fucktard.
I'll point around where everyone is. So I'm Big Mamba over here. Maggot's up there. We got JV over yonder.
Gustavo.
And then we
Also
got
as the
Shiro.
support.
Shiro over
No,
here.
remember, wrong way.
It's different for you, right?
Yeah, you need to point to the opposite.
This is Mamba. You see, I can do it right. This
Okay,
is Mamba.
it's
You're pointing
different
to
for
Maggot
you.
on my
It's
screen.
different for your view. We also have Dune on the podcast,
It's
and
mirrored.
yeah, it's mirrored. But we got Dune on the podcast as well, and we have who am I missing? Jay. So
Yeah.
thank you guys for coming. So first topic really is Cav, since that was the biggest update we've had recently.
When's it coming out?
It's
Still waiting for
Kick him,
Wagon.
please.
for
Oh my god.
Yeah, well, dude, when our wagon's getting out
all right.
It's coming out
But,
2021.
All right. So with Cav, obviously you got a new meta, new kind of gameplay going on. I'll actually start with what I think about Cav. Is it's very nice. I like it. There's a couple of changes I would like to see, but we'll go on with that later. But with Cav, love how it runs, how it jumps. It's very smooth. It looks really nice. Only things I would probably change would be like the movement. I would say it needs to be a little bit snappier, and then going through the stages of running faster and running slower. I would think I would rather have it like more instantaneous than progressive, I guess. You get what I'm saying? JV's looking at me like, what? Have you
You
noticed how
can't just start running fast. You gotta walk up to that speed. What?
yeah, but
Yeah,
okay.
I've actually
Okay.
ridden horse before. They don't just, they're not a cop.
See, I have the trouble because like I guess the input when you click, it takes a hot second before it actually like stops, and sometimes I go backwards again. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I'm thinking like, oh, I clicked it, it's like, oh, why isn't it stopping? I click it again and then it's going backwards.
If you
I
can,
sometimes.
It's what the control keys for, Mamba.
But if you can
Fine.
shift, then you also can ride a horse.
I
The control
feel
key
like
slows you down without going backwards.
sometimes to me it feels like the horse moves faster than the server is able to keep track of it. So that sounds
Yeah.
like what you're talking about.
Okay, that could
I don't
be-
know if that is the case. That's just how it feels sometimes.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's my
Like-
thoughts on it, but yeah, go for it.
I was about to say, like, I'm not actually sure how it's completely implemented because I was actually hoping that Rexel would be here. So he's the one that made like.
He's watching the stream
99% of
right
the
now.
stuff.
I told him he
Hello,
came
Rack.
up with.
He's a sneaky bastard. He
I
must
know.
have this. And I
No.
have to answer all the questions I don't have no clue about. But yeah, it does feel a bit like I've seen a bit snappier cavalry in other games. I hope that we can also get it to the same level as like who knows like Molotov or NW at some point.
Yeah. I mean, it's because like when you're turning left and right, it's more progressive when it's holding an angle instead of it turning like right away.
Yeah, there is some delay involved in that. I can
Yeah.
concur with that. There's
So-
also a lot of I still have to also say that there's also has to be some balancing done because most of the testing was done in small scale.
Yeah,
So-
we've been hosting some of the private and public line battles. My thoughts, you really have to balance with the lines because if you give too much cav, they can maul through the lines easily. If you give too little, then the lines can just overpower the cav when they tried charging in. So one idea I was thinking would be really cool is having like cavalry spikes with the infantry. I mean, also sappers, giving more sappers and the UA configs and probably in the public servers would be nice. Just because like today we just had an event and you just see basically a group of 10 cavalry just running to one line and just mauling them, meleeing them, and just running over.
So far, I've only attended line battles where there's like only a small group of cav, like 5, which is
Okay.
it's very good because it balances like against all the skirmishes you have, and you're threatening the artillery, so
Yeah, but
you
in
do
public line battles,
influence.
You have no skirmishes there. In public line battles, you have no skirmishes at all.
Yeah, in public line battles not, but I was speaking of private ones.
Yeah, but
So-
private ones.
In private line battles, the difference between line skirmishers and cavalry are actually very, very even. But in public line battles, it's very different because the lines have absolutely no idea what they're doing. They have no clue how to defend against cavalry. The public lines normally don't shoot at cavalry before they charge at them. Private lines normally do, which is a huge difference. I think in public line battles, the amount of cavalry should be tuned a little bit, but that's really about it. I just think it's more about knowing what to do when something happens. That's really the issue with cavalry.
You must think about of the new players who come in the game. They buy this game, they want to have fun, then they go in a public line battle, and then they got overrun by cavalry, and then they say,
Well, I guess here's one thing, like with line leading, like I don't particularly know what to do when you have 10 calves running at you. So do you guys have suggestions?
Anti-cavalry circle. Easy.
I have a lot of personal experience in the pubby doing it.
Here, let's get your
You
thoughts.
just-
Yeah.
Well, basically the reason for people in real life sticking close together, among other things, is cavalry. That goes the same for the game. When I was leading just in the pubby, leading a line of people, once I got the people organized, we were able to walk across the field and accept every single cavalry charge easily because I was urging everyone to stay in formation and stick close. It was to the point where we were walking at the quick step in order to stay in formation, and that helped us be able to fend them off until we got close enough to charge the infantry on the fortification we were trying to take.
Yeah, that's the only thing, because of if you would be, how he said it, if you stay in formation, you're on double line, the first guy in the front would be killed, but the second guy behind him, he can stab him with a bayonet. It's literally the only thing how you can hold it off if they go precisely into a line.
I am one with Shiro and Orford on this. As someone who plays a lot of Cav, obviously being in the company, the tactic that is most effective against us, as was proved today in the line battle, is staying together, staying close, because what happens is, as Shiro said, if you charge into them, maybe one person may die, but the person behind them can stab someone off their horse with a bayonet, or just kill the horse, or just the rider.
And it's for that one reason why I feel that in spite of cavalry still needing some tuning, overall, I love the implementation because the more we can get the public server to look more like a line battle, the better this game will be, in my opinion.
Good point, because I actually want to talk about this. I wish there was more line battle maps in the rotation of the public servers. With Cav in there, you literally let it free, and it's wide open maps. You could just run around. There's not a lot of obstacles you're running into, and then you can promote that sort of like public line battle-esque feeling in the public servers, and I think that is currently missing in the public servers. You could add on to it, Oliver Ford.
I can add something to that. I do remember we had a talk about that at some point, that we were either to reduce or to increase the amount of line battle maps we had on public servers, but it all went down to the fact, like, now, like back then, like say you didn't have cavalry, it would always end up being like both public formations would just build these giant forts of with sappers and shoot at each
Yeah.
other, and no, like only a couple of people would leave the fort. Now if you add cavalry into that mix, you have two forts, and anyone who's leaving those forts will be run over by cavalry. So
Well,
it's
also you have artillery to everything starts to balance each other out once everyone starts coordinating. You have an impregnable fortification, well, coordinate with the artillery. Have the artillery blast apart some of the spikes, coordinate with the infantry and the cavalry to move in at similar times. Preferably send in the cavalry first to mix it up so the infantry have time to run up relatively unharassed.
So I'm
That's
reading,
precisely what happened to be in the public server.
I'm actually reading some of the comments in chat. Hables was saying with the recent edition, there must be like 100+ players for a plains map to rotate. There's rarely that many players when it comes, like when it's not on sale. When it's on sale, it's packed all the time. I guess
well, now that
lessening
Calvin's
that.
here, you could adjust it.
Yeah.
I can understand it with the balance thing, because of first it was infantry against infantry, then they mixed together the artillery. For the artillery, then they get up skirms for a fight against the artillery, and then they got the cavalry to fight the skirms. But now when you have the cavalry and not the skirms in it, and you have the infantry, so something in the link is missing. So if you want to make a real line battle for everyone to enjoy it, then you must have the cav, you must have the skirms in every one of these classes, otherwise it's only a half line battle.
In relation to what Mamba said, I think one thing that works for this game really well is free weekends, because this is the type of game where you don't know what it's truly like until you've played it for yourself. And I don't know if you can grasp what it's really like until you've played it for yourself as well.
Yeah, there
So I
has
think
been
free
public
weekends really
servers.
help.
There has been a free weekend before for Holdfast.
I think free
I
weekends
don't believe
would help
so.
this game.
I don't believe so. I don't think there was one.
There wasn't?
No, it wasn't. It was.
I
just
know a
heavily
lot of
on
sales.
sale.
Oh, welcome,
Yeah.
Des. Wait, where's your webcam? I thought you were gonna turn it on.
Personally,
Welcome,
it took me a
Dubs.
Yeah,
month
one
to
sec, I'm
find
still
out
bringing
about
up my-
line
get the hat,
battles
get the hat
before
on.
I bought the game, or after I bought the game.
Wait, what?
Get the the mask.
Get the hat.
I think it took me around 3
Alright.
days of playing public
One sec.
servers for wanting something more organized, and then I found Daz.
All right, one question, Walki. Can you explain the under 25 player, under 50 player, under 100 player system in the public servers? Are you able to do that or no?
I believe I can, but
Okay.
what exactly do you need explaining for? Like how it works? Like
with how it works with the pub like map rotation, because it's variable, right?
Yeah, you basically have, like, you can even use those server commands yourself. Like, they're just config commands where you can say the minimum amount of players you need for this map, or like the minimum population you need, or the maximum population you can have. So Canyon will never be played. Like, I'm not. Don't take my word for this, by the way. I'm not entirely sure how this the official server config is done, but I know how the commands work. So you can have say I don't want Canyon to be played when there's more than like 100 people, because it's just one giant clusterfuck.
Okay.
So that's one of the things, and then you can have it all the other way around, where you can say I want more than 100 if I want to play like plains maps. Because
so,
they
like,
need more
for
people.
instance, if it goes over 100, does it go down a list of over 100 maps, like in the rotation?
It will just take the next one. Like if you just have like all 0 to 100 maps or in rotation, it will just skip maps that are not of the condition and then go to the next one. The next one it can find.
Can you have it? So if you have enough people in the server, can you program it to skip over the maps that are for under that?
Yeah, that's exactly what it does.
Oh,
It's
okay.
quite gonna see. Yeah, like if the condition is not met, it will skip the map and take the next one.
So, Bale, so your question, it's static 1 through 84, but if it doesn't meet that condition, it skips and goes to the next thing. Oh, Dez is turning on his cam. Hold on. It's loading. Hey, there he is.
Pancake Man.
That's what Daz looks like. Oh my god. Okay.
It's like, so that's what it looks like.
Is that what he looks like? Hey, and there's Olafard. How you doing? Dude, wait,
Nice doggo.
what's on the wall? The shield. Oh, we can't hear you. Something happened.
Oh, it's fake. It's not real. It's completely decorative. Let's see. 1, 2, 3 out of the 4 swords to my right are decorative.
Hell yeah.
And the dog as well.
Yeah, the dog's
Oh, yeah.
decorative.
Both of them are, yeah. They're
Is the dog
animatronic.
completely fake.
Yeah, they're animatronic.
Alright,
Audie. Yeah, see, he even programmed to respond to.
All right, back on topic. Actually, I want to talk about Artie because lately, what I've been seeing, and especially in the public line battles, if they can't skirm, they're pretty much done. Like they get run over super easy. You just send all the cavalry to the Artie spawn and then just charge into them. So thoughts?
Sappers.
Yeah, it ends up being a fort in the spawn most of the time.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
just
the
it's not
thing.
bad.
Sappers building a giant server free around it, and that's it.
The thing
I
is, you
think
have to.
sappers have been staying with lines more than Artie.
Yeah, but I mean, okay.
I mean, there's 3
Because you
sapper
pretty much
slots.
okay, so you pretty much need sapper. You pretty much need sappers for everything. You need sappers with the Artie, and you need sappers with the line.
But if
It
you have
sounds
one
like.
sapper with the
Main
Artie
defense.
and then 2 sappers with the line, I think that's the right balance.
But with every line.
I don't.
you have
I'm not talking about
30
sappers. I'm just
sappers.
talking about like. It seems to me that Artie gets countered hard when Cav is rushing towards them because they don't have
Would
time to
it make-
react.
Would it make sense to give each cannoneer one placeable spike trap?
But if
I
you have
mean-
9 arties and you have only 3 on the, so if you have 3 people on the arty and there comes about 9 cav, then the 3 things in your hand, they're going away.
True.
Well,
It's-
that would be
it is
like
better than
a-
nothing.
One
not
of the
one
things
voice.
I would like, if I can interject here, like one of the things I would think of in private line battles, what I pretty much never see being done is like increase this cannon movement speed and just make cannons a bit more mobile so they can actually, actually get to another place or maybe even move with the line for some,
Or maybe
sometimes so they can even try out new positions instead of always being around the spawn area.
Yeah.
Or
On
maybe
the
be able
topic
to
of-
limber them up to horse-drawn artillery.
Yeah, I was gonna. I was
Oof.
literally just about to say that with the topic of cannon movement speed, horse-pulled artillery would be interesting. In terms of cannoneers, they have spyglasses. You can see the cavalry coming towards you, so you mount up on the artillery, you pull the cannons to somewhere else before the cav gets there. Maybe give time for some other cav or infantry to intercept them. I think that would be interesting with the implementation of maybe an artillery officer class to ride the artillery horse.
I was
But
I was
that's all
thinking
just
also
concept.
doing if there's a cav officer too that runs
Yeah,
with the
like-
cav.
Lots of
Honestly,
pictures I looked at of the cav is the officers seem to have the white plumes that the Prussian guards have. That's the Prussian hussars I'm talking about.
It's very difficult to tell who's who when they're on cavalry because you can't see their names.
Oh my
It's
god!
like,
I remember
one
yesterday.
person's going in the left direction, the commander's going in the right direction, everyone goes left, and the officer's like, "What the fuck? I'm all
necessarily
alone." What?
I think if
remember
there was...
It happens.
remember yesterday when I TK'd.
You could clearly
It's a
tell
friendly.
who he was.
Yeah.
I think it would be
Good
interesting if there
5%
was flags on
watching.
horseback.
Mamba.
Actually, real quick, the phone lines are actually active. So if you click on the bottom, click the 8th LR link. Just click the 8th LR image on the bottom, and then there's a channel called Casting Couch. We'll start moving people in shortly-ish, and get their thoughts. Be kind of cool thing. But yeah.
We're about to have caller number 1 on the line.
I have already the numbers.
You already have the number. Call
Yeah, but,
1-8
who
call
was- who was
1-800
Happy
hosted
J-
by Big
number
Mama.
one, number 9 large.
11
me
number
like-
6 with extra dip.
Actually, let me start pulling
Some
someone in
extra
here. Let me get
quesadilla dip.
Alfred.
Lob City. Welcome to the podcast, my dude. How you
First
doing?
caller in the
Alright,
line. How you
Alfred.
doing?
Hey, how you doing, boys?
How you doing?
Doing
Good.
alright.
So,
I'm doing
you got
good.
any thoughts on Cav? Actually, before I do that,
Oh.
let me introduce you. So, Lob City, he's a major of the 21st. I think you lead the 21st, right?
I do not. I'm third in command.
Okay.
It's a weird command structure. I am like the PR guy, I guess you could say. I'm the one that like is
Dude, that's me.
around for other
He's the
organizations.
equivalent of Mamba.
Yeah,
That's basically-
I'm like the Mamba, the Star Blazer, you know, with the
Yeah.
whatever. Shout out, hey Bales, happy birthday.
Isn't it Captain Crunch or something?
All right. So,
Oh yeah, by the way, happy
Good
birthday,
man,
Bales.
boy.
Yes, happy birthday, hey Bales. Let's get a
Hey,
pog in
Bales,
chat
hey,
for hey
Bales.
Bales.
Execute Order 66.
all right. So, your thoughts on Cav? Let me hear from you.
I really enjoy Cav. I really like it. I think so far, like the balancing of it is going to be difficult. I think one of the biggest problems that I have, if anything, I think is some of the rule implementation used with the Dragoons versus the Hussars. Because the Hussars, because yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, the pistol on the Hussar, yikes, it's bad. Like I don't think I've gotten. I mean, it hits if you shoot it right, obviously, but like unless you get a headshot, you're not getting a kill. Even a headshot on like an infantry officer, it's very hard to get a kill. And they're allowed to.
Against
yeah,
other cavalry, it's just a stun weapon.
This is a
Yeah.
thing Jaeger Lieutenant Dundane brought up as well earlier when he was using them. That it just needs a buff, and I agree with him personally.
right. The other thing is I think with a lot of the rules implemented for line battles, the Hussars are allowed to fire on the move, while the Dragoons have to like either dismount or stand in a line.
Oh, I've heard
Or
of that. They can't
some
fire.
kind of formation.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't fire and move, and that kind of I feel like gets rid of the point of being on a horse. You can't move fast, and you know.
I feel like
Take
as long
ass,
as
you
you're
just-
in compass range.
Because no, most people allow them to shoot on the move. I don't know who's
Uh,
implemented them. to
question from the
literally force the
chat.
dismount to shoot.
Yeah. Question from the
Weird.
chat: has the FPS gone down since the cavalry update? Yes, but
Hella.
there's a patch soon.
What a myth.
Funny thing. No. Go to the beta branch right now. You could download it. You could still join the other servers. They've optimized the client side a lot. So I'm playing at a 3K resolution. Was a 3440 by 1440, and I'm
My
getting
Wow.
I'm getting 65 frames on medium settings. So it's good. I'm in Walki. You probably know more.
These client-side optimizations were not done by me. They are all on Rexiel. He's amazing, man. Like
Yeah,
he did
Paul
all of
Walki's
those.
been left here to answer all the questions.
Yeah, exactly. I got abandoned.
You're the PR guy for the day,
Yeah,
Walki.
the fat inside info. Just go on beta like right now. You'll get more frames. So yeah, yeah, Rexiel, get in here. Come on.
Just get
Like,
the
he
rest
has
of
the
the AGS
ability
on
to do
already.
He's playing D&D. That's why. But let's go.
Aw.
What
So
a
what have we
nerd.
covered? Cav
What a
officers,
lad.
horse
All
artillery,
right.
mechanics.
You got anything else to say, Lob? I'm gonna move you out and have someone else join.
Hold Fast Movie 2, September 2020.
Happy-
Oh, you heard
It's
it.
been confirmed.
Oh.
September
confirmed.
2020,
Heard
boys.
it.
Whole
Hold
fast
Fast-
movie.
If you haven't watched it, watch it already. It's on YouTube. 21st RMBF. Look it up.
No,
Okay.
big question is the
This
Blackfish
all
coming back
apps in
for it.
chat.
Is the Blackfish coming back? Yikes! We gotta get the I won't spoil it, but like the old leader of the Blackfish was in
Oahu.
a
Yeah.
very small Ahua was in the very end part of the movie, and we're trying to get him back. We just gotta contact him because he is busy with other things. So it's all about
The
getting
man's
people we
name
need in.
sounds like a sneeze.
You're gonna have
Alright.
to speak to his agent.
Yeah,
Thank
God
you,
bless
Lob City. Whole Fast
Anytime,
Movie
anytime.
2 coming out September 2020. You heard it here, folks.
Hosted by Big Mamba, yes sir.
All right, take
Hosted by
care.
Big
I'm gonna move you
Mamba.
back down. Thank you.
Nadonic
Ye-
Plowin.
You heard it.
Make it Stukov.
Stukov?
These candles smell really good.
Sukov, yes.
I was gonna bring him in for melee, but let's get a
Okay.
couple other people in.
Yeah,
Let's
we
get
need like
Alfred.
melee,
Welcome.
Alfred.
Our very own.
So our very own Alfred from the Aethalar. Oh, what happened?
I don't know. Someone left.
It was
It just moved around.
Hmm.
No, it was just Lob.
No, it was
Alright.
only
Just
Dunedin.
continue.
Oh, Dunedain. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Alfred, welcome.
Hello.
You got a question, topic, something you want to talk about?
Well, I suggested in the official Holdfast community on Discord to add stamina and water canteens, and that was really down with it.
So
I don't know if
stamina and water for what? The
Going for
cav?
that ultra
No,
realism.
for every unit, like mostly light infantries.
nice pussy, James.
Okay.
Oh my god.
All right, chat. +1 if you like stamina. -1
That's
if you
not gonna go
if you
up.
don't think stamina is a good idea.
If you
So
think
basically, you know,
infantry already have
Arma
it bad enough.
Yeah.
like Arma 3 has that stamina kind of thing.
Armor 3.
That's Arma
Well,
3, the
yeah.
host.
Yeah,
Compare
I
it
know,
to
but
that.
I'm saying it would be something like that. I don't think
Yeah,
that's
that
We
would
yeah.
don't
work.
need stamina. There's no sprint mode for the infantry.
Infantry's already got a face getting fucked by Artie. It's been lights and rifles since day one. Now they have to worry about Cav more than anything at this point.
Nay, nay.
You're just gonna handicap them any more than they already
Yep.
have been.
Yep.
There's no need to
by
put more.
themselves.
If
No-
anything, infantry
no-
need
no
buffs.
stamina.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, you gotta keep in mind that most of the people in a line battle are standing in line, and they are gonna be even worse off.
Hey, Walki, can I inquire about something that I found? So in the voice commands, there is a command to unfix bayonets. Will we be seeing removable bayonets in the future?
Ooh, you are
Ooh.
asking the wrong person, my friend. Those questions have to be directed to
Walkie's not go-
Refleax.
Where is he?
I'm really not a
Walkie's-
good target. Where he is, I don't know where he is.
Can we kidnap Rexian and force him to?
I thought removable bayonets was on the oh my god, Audie, please.
Animatronics.
Yeah. You know, the list of things to do. What is it called again? The roadmap?
Roadmap.
Wasn't
The
Cav the last thing on the roadmap officially?
Was it?
If I remember.
I
Hopefully we get
don't
beards for
remember.
sappers.
2022.
And we're getting beards for sappers.
Wait a minute, is that Maggot?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
That's
that is
Maggot.
maggot.
You just
Oh shit,
noticed.
I'm like, what?
On the subject with infantry, I feel like the more vulnerable each infantryman feels, the more likely they are to stick together, and I'm
Someone's
actually all
dog is
for that.
dying.
He heard a
Jesus,
noise.
like this again.
Yeah, I
Aw.
agree with what Alfred is saying because the infantry were trained to
Alright, one
fight
sec.
in a formation, not on their own.
You know, because, you know, human beings are limited.
Yeah. What's your actually real quick? What's your thoughts on? I see some private line battles, forcing people to line up their cav to fire.
Oh yeah, that was in some events.
Nasty. I don't
Yeah,
like
that
those.
is-
No.
That's such
Yeah.
a painful
I'm
process.
looking at you.
Who, me?
Who?
Me?
Not
Yeah,
you.
who?
They knew.
Just
They
point
know
at the
who they are.
screen.
They know who they are.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Those
very
hosters.
upset with them.
See, before I
You
tried
what?
doing it where they would have to be stationary to fire, so they just press F and then fire. The reason I thought that was a good idea is because with lines, like, you gotta constantly track your shot as they're moving. But I know JV JV doesn't like it, and I know a couple other people don't
As
like
the
it.
leader
So.
of the Cav company here, I'm very upset with your behavior in our public events when in regards to our cavalry
I'm
rules.
trying
Yeah, I
new
think our event
things.
today went fine, and I think the
I was
cavalry
not
rules
there.
today were good.
I think rather
So-
than
Except
artificially
JV was
nerfing,
playing Minecraft
But we take it back. We did.
and wasn't leading us.
Wait, hold on.
I was
hold
with
on.
my mother for
Wait,
half the event.
hold on,
Yeah, but
Alfred.
today they
With
they
your
had
mother
only
on
10
Minecraft?
people.
Hold on. Alfred
Sorry.
was about to say something. Go for it.
So
I was just-
Alfred, can't speak right now. But
my name is still Alfred though. So
no, I said
I
Alfred.
noticed a bug with
Ooh,
cannon
bugs.
and cavalry. So if a round shot hits directly below a horse, the rider or the horse don't die, they just keep on running away and nothing
Notice
happens.
that too.
Well, if the round shot goes under the horse, it's not going to.
Wait.
But-
So, wait, what happens? I'm confused.
So like the round
it'll-
shot literally lands under the horse.
If when it lands, not just
When it
goes
lands,
through.
yeah, when it
Self-advertisement, Daz. I like it.
Since you
What?
mentioned it, I might as well.
And,
Get your Daz
Eighth
merch today,
alarm is
boys.
coming soon.
and the
Oh,
horse,
yeah.
So
the
no,
horse,
Eighth Alarm
not,
mugs coming soon.
So the cannonball, so it launched, so it gets stuck under their legs, or I don't.
no, it just lands there. It doesn't explode or anything. Nothing happens, and no one dies. Nothing happens.
Cannonballs
literally.
don't explode.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
Walky's not gonna know, but
Oh, I might actually know because I've written the
Ooh.
cannon
Oh.
bouncing code.
Sure,
I've written
okay.
that code. Yes, it might actually be some issue where the horses are in a wrong layer or something, and I guess in this case it more refers to the splash damage. I've seen horses being killed by cannonballs, so it probably is something to do with the splash damage of the last impact, and that's not like horses are immune against that or something like that. I'm gonna check it out.
I
Okay.
say like
Don't
once
increase the-
every
don't
25
increase the-
times.
Don't increase the exploding damage, please. Don't.
I'm
do
not
it.
gonna touch things, but I'm just gonna.
Don't do it, otherwise Shiro's going to have a.
oh my
I don't know
god,
what you
dude, those are
Say
the
no
best
to
times
that.
for me.
Annoying.
What that?
Many
Oh,
innocent pianos have been destroyed.
Hold on. When the bouncing cannonball first came out, dude, I was having a blast.
Oh,
That was
man.
so
yeah.
good.
That was so
Yeah,
good.
I wasn't the art back then.
I
that was good.
remember just
We
like
banned Artie. We banned Artie from our events.
A lot
But
of people
it was too
did.
much. Yeah, precisely.
I remember what is it? I would always like manage to line up a shot with the TKK and the just lines just wiped, gone. See
The
ya.
best when it's almost finished bouncing and it softly touches your head and kills you.
Well, Reflex just messaged me.
Man, we go back to
Oh.
the time where
Yeah,
Rock
Reflex
he
messaging.
might be.
I mean, at the
yeah.
very least, it
Uh-oh.
would probably knock you out, if not kill you.
Go
Like
back
if
to a time
a
when
big
no one
iron
was
ball hits you in the head softly.
Reflex gonna join
Actually-
in a couple
Actually-
minutes.
Acceptable.
Ooh.
Wait, you say Papa Reflex?
Yeah, Papa Reflex
comes
in a few minutes.
Can I bring up something
Now,
about the
now
cavalry
Walki
real
gets
quick?
spanky. Now Walki gets spanky here.
Yeah, now I'm not allowed to talk
Yes,
anymore while he's here.
He has officially pleaded the fifth, ladies and gentlemen.
So, one thing I've noticed with cavalry a lot is when you're playing all the time, if you hit the enemy cavalry, it freezes you. So it's like you T-bone them. And it's the melee when you T-bone another horse is really bad. It's like if you're the person that T-boned them, you can try and hit them as many times as you want, but you'll never hit them. But the person that is being T-boned just doesn't have a problem killing you at all.
See, that's why you need horse insurance.
I'm gonna balance. I'm gonna balance out the webcam real quick. Let me throw in Yeet in here. Hello, Yeet.
Yeet.
Welcome.
Oh,
Hello.
Yeet, you're on
He's
mute.
himself. He's muted.
Oh, he's
Bye,
dead.
Yeet.
What the
Oh,
fuck? Oh,
Yeet,
hello.
hello. How you doing?
Welcome, caller on the line.
Oh, Alfred left. Okay, that's cool. Oh, I was going to balance it. Shoot, whatever.
Ciao, Alfred.
All right, welcome Yeet to the podcast. How you doing?
Hi. I'm alright.
How's it going?
Still ill, but fuck it.
So real quick, Yeet is part of the KRA. You're are you officer? Rifle officer? I don't know.
Rifle
Yeah,
captain.
he is.
Rifle captain.
Cool.
I don't know what you do.
Disrespect, Mamba.
First rifle captain.
All right.
He captains the rifles, and that's what he does.
Been
So,
that
yeah.
rank
I don't know what
for
the rank structure is. Isn't
well
it
over
the
a
major that
year.
does things?
Yeah.
Hasn't
He gets
changed
spanky from-
much
least
since
He gets
I've
spanky
known
from
you.
father.
The Bushmen.
So
Isn't like the captain the underboss of the major?
Ghillie suits.
Bales, I don't know what Yeet does. Okay, he just yeets people.
I just give morale and stuff. I stream at people.
Hey, speaking of morale, welcome Reflex
Oh,
to the podcast. Welcome.
Our prayers have been answered.
my god.
Oh,
We are sorry, Reflex. We are not worthy.
Not worthy.
Hello there. Thank you for
Hey.
the invite.
Yeah, no problem. Welcome. Wait,
Wow, he's
what were
loud.
some of the questions that Walkie couldn't answer? Shoot, what
Yeah.
was it?
Well, I mean, each have our own roles, right? Some more gameplay focused questions. I better handle them myself, but he knows what he's doing when it comes to the tech. He's the chap which did all the cannons as well, after all. So, yeah, if you have some bugs on them, I'm pretty sure he can get to fixing them himself.
Hey.
Yes.
JP, what are you doing?
So first question in chat I see is, when is Walki getting a raise? Reflex.
I like how there's
Pretty soon on that.
Oh,
quickly turned
Oh
the
my
chat
God.
show into the interrogation of Walki.
Yeah. We'll
I'm
be
kidding.
doing some changes to the team. If you don't know about this already, relatively soon,
Ooh.
I guess you'll be able to hear of it. So
So Walki's getting fired. Is
for
what you're
that as well.
When the mountains
Hi.
blow in the wind.
Shit.
So what is it? I guess one thing I want to talk about with you, Reflex, is I guess the idea of infantry or cav spikes to counter like 10 cavs running into a line and just demolishing it. You got a developer's perspective on that?
Well, I mean, when it comes to infantry spikes, I did once have the idea of allowing other classes other than the sappers to be able to construct some more of the simpler defenses, like the smaller shovels, right, which they can construct very quickly, and they would function slightly different to the sapper class, where they are more fully fledged when it comes to the construction of defenses. But that all has to be tested out, and all of these kind of features.
Yeah,
I want
of course, yeah.
investigate more after we take the game out of early access, because for now we're sticking with what's in the roadmap, or at least most of it. Make sure that we polish the game, stabilize it. There's some optimization coming now, as you've also heard, and
Yeah.
there's another big major update coming. If you haven't read the last book, if you haven't read the last blog post about this game, I can talk about what it's going to be, but what I can say is,
go for it.
yeah, definitely look forward to it. It's going to be as brilliant as this one. So
Will we see
update
beards for
when?
sappers?
Will you, so wait. So will you tell like what's the next major update? Unless if you want to not say it, it's fine.
I can't say that for
A
now.
wee
Okay.
update coming.
Reflex,
So-
will we see beards for sappers?
Say again, sorry.
Will we see beards for sappers?
Beards for sappers.
my
It's
God,
not our plan.
I'm all for that actually.
It's a legitimate question, but
Fuck yeah.
face customization, we don't plan on expanding on that.
I have another legitimate question.
Go for it.
So, in regards to infantry countering cavalry, would it be out of the question to put like have a bracing mechanic for bayoneted muskets?
It wouldn't, but at the moment, when it comes to balance, I see no issues when it comes to infantry versus cavalrymen. If we're going to continue buffing more so the infantry against the cavalry, then cavalry are going to be put at a disadvantage. And it also becomes tricky to try to balance out what happens when it comes to a balance where it requires coordination, since you don't see that happen a lot on public servers, of course, right? And a bracing mechanic, it would need to function within a group, more so within just a single particular individual.
Reflex, I sent you a link. You can see us if you click on that link.
Don't trust them. Don't click it.
You can see our webcams with that link.
See everybody's beautiful faces.
I almost feel that if you increase the cavalry slots and then gave the infantry a bracing mechanic, that itself might balance out. Obviously, it would require testing.
Yeah.
Wait, did you say increase the slots?
Yeah, increase the amount of cavalry slots, but give the infantry a bracing mechanic.
With how many cavalrymen are you playing right now during a lion battle?
I'm talking about the puppy.
6 is a good number. 12 is
I mean,
too many.
you gotta be careful because of balance, and also people's computers can't handle a crap ton of cav on a screen. I mean, that could be fixed with the the beta that's up right now. That could be fixed.
Yes, and Drexel will be doing. He's doing a really great job when it comes to optimization with the cavalry update as well. Like the beta that's on right now, it doesn't even feature some of the stuff that he was working on last Friday. So FPS should be much better than what you're seeing as well on the current version of the beta.
Oh, by the way, how do you like your gifts for Christmas?
Gifts for Christmas.
Oh, no.
Walki and Reflex.
Hey, wait a minute. I don't consider it a gift. This is the payment for me being here. Totally.
Whoa, no, that's a wait a second.
I'm back, sorry.
That was a
Wait, he's getting
gift.
paid for this?
So
I
you're
gifted
saying you
that
accept
Don't know with what,
hentai as a
though.
payment?
It's not very PG.
Where's my payment? What the fuck?
I plead
AGS
the
is
fifth.
buying out journalism.
You can get hentai sniper.
Reflex, do you have a question? I know you're one of the callers here right now. No, nothing. He's just
Like,
quiet.
was just another caller.
All right, moving out.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
There you go.
Disrespect.
All right. Actually, let's change the topic a little bit to Melee. I know two people who really want to talk about Melee, so I'm gonna move them in.
Oh yes.
All right.
Oh, yes.
We got Wrecked and we got James Stukov.
James Stukov.
Both Melee sweats, as you call them.
There can only be one
But,
James.
Oh, wait. So we'll also take.
wait,
Cheeseburger.
Wreck, you there?
Yeah, of
All right, James, you there?
course, always.
All right. So,
Cheeseburger?
wait, he said
Yeah, can
don't
we get
drag me
Cheeseburger
in.
Yeah,
He said,
yeah.
should I?
Sure, it's
Cheeseball's
fine.
having the
Hey,
time of his
Cheeseball,
life
can
down
I
there.
can I drag you in?
I mean, momenti.
All right, Cheeseball.
Jesus.
What?
We're talking about
sure?
Melee now. Okay.
Already it
Yeah,
is.
sure, go ahead.
So
One of
there
us.
there was some Melee changings. I don't know too much about Melees because I'm a boomer with Melee.
Wasn't
So
it just the timings? I'm not quite sure.
It was
Get
the
your
fainting. They delayed it.
Yes, exactly. So part of our, because one of our interventions with the previous update was to slow down the fainting mechanic. First and foremost, it wasn't keeping up too well with our current systems, which resulted in some things happening that we weren't
So-
really expecting at all. You know, when things become extremely hard, especially for even players
So
with
here's
enemy tier, right?
here's
to
my
counter
thought.
the
Yeah.
things.
So here's my thought with Melee. There's really two type of communities that play this game. You got the public players, public servers, and then you got competitive players, and that would be like Rex, Stukov, Cheesebill, a bunch of other people, Ostro. So you kind of have to you have to cater to two people. I mean, it's good. I like the Melee change because it's good for the public players. Like, it's not too punishing on them versus people who are experienced. Now with the competitive players, I know it does suck. I mean, I think there's commands on the server config which you could change it, right? So-
Believes.
So I would actually, one thing I would, so I know like game modes you could set it to hardcore and just normal for the server. It'd be interesting to see like Melee set it to like competitive and then regular, and have different type of Melee systems.
Creating
Thoughts?
another game type would of course be possible, right? But I'm not one which would recommend to personally, since we already have two separate game types, and the only reason
Right.
why I was kind of forced to do that, since we needed an entry level for players when it comes to playing on public servers, but it wasn't playing too well during the more competitive events. So the only consensus back then was to simply create two separate modes. Since if musket accuracy was reduced, players were already having a hard time trying to kill each other off within a server of 150 players. They just got extremely frustrated and they quit the game, right? And we saw
Yeah.
much
And-
better player retention when we started introducing those different game
And
types.
I
standard
know,
and
I know from a developer standpoint, you always want to, any players coming in, you want to make sure they're enjoying the game, having fun, and keep them to the game.
Yes, definitely.
So,
Hey, Dundan's here. Welcome, Dun.
hello, Dune.
Hello. What's up?
Welcome.
So, but I have the question to Jay.
Actually, another thing is, I was streaming the Christmas Melee tournament today, and there's a lot of like pushing, like push spam basically.
Mm.
So I mean, Rec, you probably could speak to this.
Well, it is quite effective because with Grenadiers, the difference between Grenadiers and Line Fighter is the small HP difference. But with Line, an upper attack that isn't dragged generally one-hit kills. However, with Grenadier, with the added HP, it doesn't one-hit kill, it leaves you on like 10 HP, i.e. 2 shoves. And that's why shove is so much overused in Grenadier versus Grenadier, because it's a very easy finishing up. and there's barely anything you can do against them. Like you can spin, you can try to run away, but
Yeah,
they can just gamble you. But
I'd
you can't really
I'd,
block with your back.
I'd be kind of interested in maybe a RC command to disable like pushing.
I'd
I
say
don't. I don't
reducing
think it's
them.
a good idea to get to take a mechanic out of the game, which is in turn to hide it in the main mechanic. Like secondary attacks are there as part of a balancing factor, also to break up fights when it comes to blocking and attacking when you have high level gameplay going on. So that was part of its intention. We also wanted it to be used as a secondary attack and as an offensive mechanism if it comes to that, and people are making use of it that way. Now, if for the case of competitive events, you might think it would make for some nicer tournaments if you can survive a few more hits. Something which we can do is perhaps allow you to reduce the damage that is dealt by melee combat by a certain percentage. This way you could survive 2 strikes, and then after that, um, perhaps you can finish the person off with a shove.
So I guess James and Reg, like what do you do usually in the competitive, like when it comes to pushing? Do you like hit up attack and then push and then they're
I
done?
mean, the reason why people are pushing now is because, of the melee changes that happened. And because we're like fainting and all of that stuff was reduced, the only way you can really like kill people is, or like better said, by killing someone who knows how to block, is by either trying to change your feint, like your attack from down to up and vice versa, spinning, or as said, pushing. And pushing is extremely effective right now, since there's not really a big like counter against it. So the only way you can really counter a shove slash a push would be by trying to like evade it or dodge it. But as of right now, there isn't like, for example, a way. What personally I would think would be a cool is if there was a way you could like mirror the attack. So if someone tries to push you, that you also do the same attack, and then it's like a clash.
Yeah, like Immortal.
Yeah, for example. There's also other games, but yes, like Immortal, because then you don't have to like keep on running away or try to sidestep. Because what basically happens is, as Rex said, you just get shoved, spammed, and then if you try and run away, they just gamble / attack you in the back, and you die.
I think two good solutions would be either that. However, the problem with that is that the shove is so quick; it practically hits instantly. So it's high. There's high chance that you don't have time to react, because if you're blocking, you can't shove and block to wait for the block to go down. So the enemy like it's going to be easier for them to just finish the shove than for you to actually counter the shove. So I think a damage reduction for grenadiers, so grenadiers take like 64% less shove damage. So what? It's like what 2-3 shove damage per shove will be better, because you won't just die to 2 hits. You would actually have a chance to fight against the shove. Since with
yeah,
3-4 shoves, the enemy has to constantly hit you.
You
Well,
also
obviously,
oh, go for it.
yeah, like when it comes to the grenadier itself, there's some issues when it comes to balancing the classes, right? Since there's the line, the skirmisher, and the grenadier, and there's the guards as well. And if we continue to buff the grenadiers, which I don't know at the moment, they are pretty much the primary class of use during these competitive matches, then we're going to be starting facing issues within other places in the game. So we cannot go and simply make the grenadier class receive less damage, because then the guards will practically become useless.
Yeah.
That's debatable. Guards are generally used when you know that you can block the enemy's attack. For example, when you're better against an easier matchup, because guards have more bonuses, extra damage, extra reach, faster attacks. Since
Yes,
with
exactly.
extra reach.
Exactly. Yep. That's the way we intended to balance out those classes.
I mean, you can add that to guards too, if you want them to be stronger too. I'm not sure about pubs, but in pubs, I rarely see anyone using the shop method.
I
It's just easier
see,
to attack once people
I
don't block.
see one of Dune's messages try to counter desync. I mean, it really depends on the server, and it really depends on where you're connecting from. So if I'm an NA player connect,
server based,
About their desync. When it comes to desync, obviously, if you remember a few patches back, we included an indicator which would specifically inform players if they have high latency to the server or not. And most of the issues there do happen indeed because of high latency, right? Which we can't do much about.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time during the last Melee updates to try to make it viable above 90 ms to still be able to play competitively, right? Even with Melee combat. But realistically, there's not much more that we can do when it comes to that. If we're going to keep making the bar higher, then players with lower ping will start seeing things which shouldn't supposed
And
to be
also,
happening. So
the amount of players on your screen too does matter. So client side FPS is
yes,
another
so
thing.
obviously client side FPS is intertwined with latency, right? Walki would be able to give a much better explanation, of course, about this. But if you have low frame rates and you have a decent amount of latency, then your gameplay will still suffer. So try to make sure that you get decent FPS and decent latency when you connect to a particular server. When it comes to optimizations, as I guess for those who are already following this podcast, we have quite a few things coming with the next game version 0.41.
Hey.
That sounds pretty
Very
nice. Yeah, even more for people that
So-
don't have NAS tier PCs.
Does that so for the Melee competitive players, does that answer your question? Does that help for you guys?
The latency fix or what?
I mean, just change like what is it? Just the things that Reflex said about like changes.
I mean, you can always balance the classes, but I don't think the issue is the class balance, but more like the balance of the game mechanics.
I mean, we didn't talk about the new blocking changes. Now that
Yep, that's something you can discuss.
Go for
Yeah.
it. I mean, it's
So
slower.
when it comes
fainting.
to the new blocking changes, I guess you've already heard the reason why we have to do it, and it's something that is required for the game's integrity. But I was already trying to discuss with Rex on how we can achieve what we want to achieve, which is literally reducing feint spamming without impacting blocking.
Yeah.
Right? Since that was the feedback that the players gave us.
Yeah, no, I personally
which
I like
was
the change.
primary concern.
how come you don't like feint spamming? Like, what's wrong with it?
Bro,
the
who,
way
me?
the way that feint spamming functions at the very moment, even technically, there's way too much going on for the server to try to keep up with everything underneath, and this is not because it's software netcode or anything like that.
Especially on a public
it's
setting.
instant, and when something is instant and you have a sudden, for whatever reason, a slight latency spike, then you would either not receive that data or you would receive it much later on, which could result in, oh, why the hell did I die? Or, oh, why the hell did I didn't have any chance to block it, right? This is the reason why now you are saying that, oh, but it's much more difficult to kill someone else with melee combat, and then we have to resort to shoving because they can block more reliably. And that's part of the reason. It's not just because the system itself was slowed down, but because technically the server can keep up more with what the client is sending him in terms of the data.
But I do have a question to that. Just like, so you're saying it was because of the server for one part, and probably also because of the community, obviously. But if I think back, so obviously I cannot speak for like the public kind of side of the community because I've been playing competitive for more than half a year now. So I've been mostly only fighting and mailing with players who know how to block and stuff. And basically I'm not sure when the last version of Melee, so so basically the last version of Melee. I don't know when that was introduced, but I think it was start of this year sometime. It was a long time ago, right?
It was quite a while back.
Yeah. So, and it did work for the competitive community. It was actually working out perfectly fine. Well, not maybe perfectly. I shouldn't say that, but it was working out.
Obviously, like mentioned, every time when we release an update, like it always goes like this, right? So the first few the first few weeks usually, because the meta changes, right? There's going to be people which either are okay with that or they simply dislike the change because it's change. and that's always something that happens. But if you think of it, if we're going to be basing the meta simply on who can spam the fastest, then I don't think that's going to make for brilliant gameplay.
That's not
In
the
the sense
meta
that,
though. Like that's
yeah,
not
but
that's
it
not
is
exactly
it
right.
is part of it, right? So
I
what
wouldn't
are
say
you
so. I mean, if you look at the number one EU player, then that's his playstyle is extremely block focused.
Yes, it's different for everything, but I'm talking more about like the perspective of the entire community.
Yeah,
When-
I do understand where you're coming from.
And what
It
I
does
don't
make
know,
sense.
like I said, I feel like there's two different communities when it comes to Melee, like player wise. And I mean, one thing you really want to do make sure with Melee is like you gotta have it where it's easy to learn for everyone, how to block, how to attack, stuff like that. But also it has to be hard to master and get good at.
Yeah, but I think
So
the
that
problem with
fine balance.
yeah, but the problem with the public side is the same things probably still destroy pubs because like most pubs don't know how to block, but there's some that do
Right.
know how to block.
So that's
Probably
why
don't know.
it has to be easy to learn. So
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yes.
Well, it needs to be not frustrating to get into. Simply, that's it. I do understand, of course, like there's a lot of players which start to complain, or because I did the wrong block or anything like that. But that's part of the mechanic. If you block wrongly and you die, then that's something that you should learn, right? That's not something that we plan on changing anytime soon. But if you go up to someone and he has no time at all to react to a strike, and he knew who was going to block within the right direction, then it's simply frustrating for the player.
I mean, I think a tutorial should be in place for Melee.
That could be a potential.
So something I guess which we could also work on in the future, but all of this will have to come after the game's full release. There's
Alphonse
other
will be dragged
ways
in here.
which we can discuss on how to better introduce people to the melee mechanics, right? Especially new players. Now that's
Can-
good.
Oh god, not
I
the elf.
I dragged an elf here.
Not the elf.
Please here.
Can I give an extremely controversial but possibly but honest opinion?
Sure, go for it.
When I got this game because I like the Napoleonic Wars era, and when I think of the Napoleonic Wars era, I don't think of 5v5 tournament. Like, I feel like the game should be more based around massive amounts of people. That's
Yeah.
what made Napoleonic Wars so awesome.
I mean, that's how I
What
think
makes
it
you think
is,
though
but
that the game isn't focused more so around a group of players rather than the individual? Obviously, you need to give some sort of goal for a player to strive for, otherwise it would just become simply boring, right? And one of that would be to better yourself in melee combat, which I think is a good
I
goal.
mean, Napoleonic Wars didn't have any of the leaderboards or anything, and it didn't even have voice chat. It was very successful for a while.
Yeah, but it came out quite a while ago.
that's such a yeah. You're comparing a super old game to Holdfast.
I'm just,
Yes,
well,
yes.
it's really one of the only ones to compare it to, though. You know, that's the only reason.
Yeah, but why shouldn't we modernize the game compared to Napoleonic War?
I know where you're coming from, because in case you if you remember this or not, but I was also working on the title for quite a few years before we moved on to Holdfast, and some of the things that were being done in that title, which I still very much am proud of to this date, aren't things that I was looking at replicating, right, in Holdfast, because that's simply not how games work. When you go and you concept something that is new, then you're going to make things that work based on the concept that you have. We aren't trying to make a sequel of the game.
Like I said, it was would possibly be a very controversial opinion.
I mean, why can't we have both the competitive and the pop side Melee? You know, nothing's preventing both from existing.
Yeah, I did mention that, like sort of how the game modes, there's a competitive for the musket and regular for the public servers, kind of that, because you're gonna have, there's two different communities. Having a system that could cover two would be kind of nice. So you have your competitive style where it's hard to master, and kind of like how Melee was before. I mean, I don't know too much about Melee. I'm not that good at it. But like I like the new Melee system because I'm not good at Melee. Like I'm like all the other public players, you know, trying to learn, trying to get better. And I mean, I like the change. I know from the competitive side it's not a good change, but having that kind of two-sided like competitive mode and casual mode is nice. I think it would be a nice change to have. And then
I mean,
when it comes to the previous point, though, Elf, like what exactly was the reason for stating when it comes to the bigger battles or the individual, just so I can understand correctly.
Are you talking about the?
Wait, are you talking about me?
Yeah, like the point that you previously made.
Oh, because like when I think of the Napoleonic Wars, I think of mass groups of people fighting in formation against each other. That's truly what I play these types of games for. That's why I don't like modern games that much. If I wanted to play a modern game where the individual could do everything, I'd play Battlefield.
I think
I'm also in agreement.
Melee system can't support both public and competitive play.
Yeah.
Now, the changes which have been made to feint spamming are the right idea that feint spamming should be countered. Because at the moment, the problem with feint spamming is that it's a very low skill, and it can only be countered by a very high skill. Now, anyone can left and right click their mouse very fast, but it takes a lot of practice to learn how to block it.
Well,
Now,
thank you for saying something that I
what we need
was also
in the system
thinking.
is, in order for there to be a competitive viability of Melee, we need blocking which is very consistent. At the moment, the current Melee system, I do not believe, is suitable for competitive play. I've been in the Melee scene for a long time this last year. I've been doing it for a long time, hosting pickups every week. So I feel Melee very dear to my heart. But this Melee system, because of the blocking, not because of the feint and spam changes, cannot really progress, I don't believe, for a competitive side. Maybe for the public side, yes. But if I block it on my side, if I right click, it should be a block if I'm in the right direction with the correct speed. Having this 0.2 second delay between my blocks means that many of the attacks which you should block, because you know that you've right clicked, you are unable to block at the moment.
Yeah,
But
ironically
That
enough,
issue though happens.
the feint spam changes
one
are
person at a
in the,
time.
it's the right idea, and I do like that because it does help the public players a lot. And we need to make sure that this low skill play cannot kill everyone who's not at a high level. That cannot survive for a Melee system.
Yes. So, like, when it comes to the actual blocking, with the current changes that we do, what you're having trouble or issues with at the moment is changing from one strike to the other, right? So, correcting your block, which is the most difficult part to do, rather than blocking the first strike. I don't know. It's a little bit of
the correction is a big part when someone's fainting.
Exactly.
And so because of this delay, it means that when I do an incorrect block, I'm unable to correct my block, which is causing me to die.
Because of the 0.2 delay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Other than that, you can block reliably. If you don't,
to a certain level, yes, we can block rather reliably. It's obviously not perfect, but I'm gonna accept that. It's a game where there's different pings, there's lag. It works good, pretty much, apart from when we're changing that direction because of the new delay. If we talk about the previous system, blocking in it, in my opinion, was pretty much fantastic. I would never die if I think I should have blocked it. I would always die if I didn't block it. If I block it, I block it. It was very good. And you guys have done a lot of good work from the system when we spoke last time in the beta of, I think it was March, when we were working on the Melee system.
Yes, it was a while back. Yeah, it was a while back, and there's been a lot of changes, especially
a lot of improvements to the system in general. Blocking is very solid, but this update for blocking is a step in the bad direction.
Yeah, I do like that. That was one of the brilliant points, which obviously players made up, as I said before. Like they did say so that blocking now feels reliable. That's because of the delay, and as you know, feinting and blocking are intertwined within the system. Next week, if time allows, since at the moment our priority is towards optimization, since players obviously felt that optimization was subpar, more so than the prior update. I'd like to get back to thinking of other ways from a technical perspective on how we can reduce the feint spamming, but bring back the reliability of the blocking. Since having blocks more reliable, that's always a plus for the system.
Which, by the
Right,
way,
but
the optimizations are
While
great.
we've got
Like
you
on beta
here,
right now.
Reflex. Oh, sorry, Mamba.
No, go for it.
While we've got you here, apart from the feint spamming, there's
Mhm.
one more issue in Melee which we've been getting a lot in the last few months, and that's the shove spam. Now, there's a
We
couple
just
elements to the
discussed about
shove
this.
problem.
yeah, you're a bit
yeah.
late, Elf.
Yes, yeah.
Me
So-
and Rex were complaining about.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we can.
We're
Like
doing
the
our
thing
dirty
is,
work, Elf.
obviously, some players were suggesting with regards to removing the damage from the shove, but it will do in a sense, right? However, it's simply taking out a secondary strike's ability to deal damage, which a secondary attack should also be able to deal damage to the other player if you manage to land a hit, and that's how the mechanic was intended to in the first place as well. Whilst it being used as both an offensive and a defensive quick strike.
Um,
I understand
So-
that, but have we covered the actual spam of the shove? Because
Yeah.
at the moment, a
Yeah, we
lot of
did.
players are using shove as a permanent stun lock, effectively, on you.
yeah.
Is this in a group fighting situation?
In a solo situation, in
So
a
1v1, like the
So
tournament.
the idea is
Yeah.
that as you shove your opponent, and then you do a feint. So that feint means that your opponent essentially has to block because it's now their turn to block. Now
Exactly.
they could do a shove against you, but shoving is always a bit risky when you're backpedaling and they're moving forward
Yes.
because of the way the connection works. So they're at an advantage. So what they do is they feint, they stop their attack, and then they shove you again. And they continue to do this, and it's very, very tough to get out of. You pretty much can't do anything because you cannot launch an attack before that shove hits you. So what I think would work really good for this is at the moment I believe the variable's value is at a 0.85 delay or something. It's something around that.
For the cooldown, right?
The
For
cooldown for the
spam.
shove, exactly. If that
Yes.
was to be increased to something like a 2.5 second cooldown, it would allow the person who's been shoved to launch an attack at the enemy. So if they attempt to shove you again, you
Mhm.
can kill them because you've got enough time to do so. Because right now, you cannot do an attack before they can shove you again.
But wasn't that the point of the shove, is to stun you?
But the
Yeah,
problem is
but
the continued
it's a
stun.
perma stun.
A single stun is completely fine. But
Yeah,
if you're doing a stun and then you can't get out of that stun, and if you do a shove
Yeah.
to try and get out of it, you're at a disadvantage because you're backpedaling, they're moving forward. So the way that the shove mechanic and the latency works is that you're gonna miss your shove a lot more. But when you're holding W and they're holding S, you can shove them because of the speed. You move faster when you're running forward than when you're backpedaling.
Yeah.
So you can close that gap.
I think this would deserve a beta testing. I'm not like we can't really say if it's a good idea or not without beta testing.
Of
Yeah.
course,
But
everything
yes,
requires
Yeah,
testing.
it does. It does.
yes.
I mean, the issue isn't not the damage that is being dealt. So reducing the damage, that's not the issue. It's really the spam, like Alf said.
I
People are
mean, reduce
saying-
damage wouldn't mind too,
I'm
considering
completely
the
fine.
grenadier.
People
Damn
are
it.
saying elf for melee ambassador.
Think about on that right
my
now.
master
Yeah.
power.
He's,
Oh, Des,
he's
you
well
still
spoken.
there?
He's been playing for a while as well, right? So
Yeah.
that's always good to hear.
But
So
Oliver,
thank
you
you,
still there?
Twitch chat. You are very
Yes,
kind
I am
to
here.
me.
Yeah, okay. I thought you died. Actually, let me get
Oh no, I'm just listening.
public player's perspective on melee. You got anything?
So I'm one of the public players that I would consider myself good with melee, but mainly with the sword. I actually, to be honest, didn't really notice a lot of the changes, but I did notice less people fainting, but then again, sometimes in the chaos of 50 people fighting around you, you don't really notice much other than the guy you're fighting.
I feel like it's hard to notice change on high player servers simply due to the lag already on set servers.
Oh.
Yeah, and I've been playing in the EU, so I've just been taking all of it in stride and doing my. So I didn't really have much else to say.
All right. I'm gonna
One of the
close this-
reasons why we
Oh,
need
go
to
ahead.
improve frame rate, especially, was for that fact, since all of the stuff, all of the specific optimizations that we're working on, like the optimizing cavalry units and the scoreboards and the players, they will all scale according to the number of players in the server, and that's something that which we need to do at the moment, since that will, yes, of course, help with the melee combat. If you're playing the game with 20 FPS or 30 FPS because there's 150 players server,
Yeah.
everybody's
And
doing
also,
their own thing.
another issue is like when you're kind of like server flipping NA and EU, so you got EU players on NA and like NA3, and then NA players on EU3, like that.
That's
also,
always that's a big problem. That's a huge problem for us. Because a lot of players, like even sometimes they are new to the game and they hop into a server and they don't get the best out of the melee because they're playing on a server across region. And if you're playing with 130 ms, then well, you're going to be feeling that 130 ms one way or another. And since the combat is fast paced, right? Then more so for the system. As we said, when we are developing the melee update, we try to do things to try to mitigate the impact that latency has when it comes to melee combat, but there's only so
you
much.
think it could be like a UI change where instead of going to the server browser, it's like it gives you a page, you can select which, like, do you want to go army battlefronts, or if there's a featured event, it like shows up. Also like like select on naval, and then if you select on those, it'll look for your ping and see which one's the best and put you there instead of having to go through a server list.
Yeah, like at the moment, of course, like the player base isn't as big as to try to develop such features where it would come of extreme use, but something I think which I'm simply going to bring back is the players unfortunately not be able to switch off the latency indicator, because we do get a lot of players which just go and start turning things off from the user interface settings without even caring.
Right.
And
I was
there's no
saying it as like and so when you click play on the main menu, instead of showing the server browser, it shows you like 3 selections: army front, naval, featured event if there's a line battle or something, and then like the last item would be click for server browser. Will you get the whole list?
I feel like that's unnecessary.
Sounds like a matchmaking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
kind of like a matchmaking.
it's a lot
thing.
of work. It's a lot of work to do something like that.
But I think you seem
I'm
to
not
have
objecting
the
to the
first
idea.
map.
Oh,
I can understand your point, right? It's it would be something nice to have, but it's a little bit out of scope for releasing.
Would a recommended server tab be a
Wait,
better alternative which is simpler for that then? Because instead of having this full matchmaking, right now we've got it split into official and community. Now there could be a third classification which is the players recommended for their client side. So if there's a public line battle in their region, that gets recommended. And if they're EU player, the EU server can get recommended. Would that be kind of a bridge there, Mamba?
I would think so, yeah. Because if you're recommending a server for them, it's basically recommending a better gaming experience with low latency and all that.
Yes.
I think maybe a pop-up that would indicate that you're on a wrong server, just on the public. Let's say I'm EU and I'm new player, and NA server has 140 players. Obviously, I joined the NA server. Has a lot of players. I don't see it's an A. I'm not sure about latency. It's a cool number, but I just joined it. And as soon as I joined, I see a big pop-up that can be turned off in the game settings that says that you're on an NA server. You're likely to get worse gameplay and high latency. Do you want to instantly go to the EU server, the EU Army Front server, or do you want to stay? You get to choose. Do I want to stay or I want to move? It should be quick. Not sure about development time or how it is.
Yeah, but I
should
wouldn't
fix-
want to like spam that, because with line battles you have a lot of like NA players playing on EU line battles and stuff like that.
You'll have to do it for public, albeit just the 2 Army front server.
So at the moment, like one of the best solutions I can think of without having either to develop something which we've been trying to do so before, but it's proven a lot of work, like transferring players automatically from one server to another.
Yeah.
And then there's a host of issues that come with that, like actual UX that would be required and how the experience is going to be when the player is transferred. You would need to inform them, you would need to check that you don't switch players from the middle of the round to another round because it's going to be extremely confusing. There's a whole slew of issues that would need to be taken care of. But
Actually,
something more simple that I can recommend is like a few updates back, we had those indicators which either show you your frame rate or your latency. Now, something that I'll be doing is like those won't be able to be toggled off up until you actually fix the problem by joining a correct server or solve your FPS issues, and we can include a small notification that that combat is impacted under those, and I'm pretty sure players will notice that that is the case.
Okay.
Right, so
hold your thought right there. I'm gonna actually get some more people in the podcast. So thank you, Elf, Rec, and James for coming. Thank you guys.
Gentlemen. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For coming.
Have a nice
Thank
evening.
you guys.
That's nice.
See you. Maybe one James.
All
Merry
right,
Christmas.
let's get some
Good
more
morning,
people
Clement.
in here. Let's get Darius. We'll do Master.
Jack's going.
I think this is balance. Okay. All right, Darius, 8th alarm member. Was it officer in? Is he officer in NCO? JV.
He's senior NCO of Cavalry Company.
There you go. And then we also have here Master. I like to call him Master Eli for some reason, but it's Master I.
Head of our Swiss Legion.
Yeah.
He's a
But,
representative for our Swiss.
You guys been waiting for a while, so you guys have any questions?
Before we get
Any
started,
top-
I sent you a donation. I don't know if you saw it or not.
Yeah, no, I saw it.
Oh yeah, I meant to check that. Big shout out to the boy Tesco for the $1 US donation.
Big shout out to Big Man.
Don't make me refund my 80p. Answer that question, man.
For those of you that don't know, Darius works our security firms around the
No, I don't.
convenience store.
Oh, okay. So okay.
Please get off of
So wait. I see the question. Okay, Mamba, would you kiss, kill, or marry out of Cheesebill, Dez, and Dune?
What the fuck?
Whoa, what?
What?
Where did this come from?
That's what he.
That?
No, that's
Who
what
was
he.
it out of?
That's what he donated.
Who was it out of?
Wait, who is this directed
Cheesebill,
to?
Dez, or Dune.
Okay, I know this.
So who would I
got
kiss,
my
kill,
answer.
marry? Oh fuck.
Jesus.
I would kiss Dune, kill Cheesebill, marry Dez.
Mamba just in it for the merch. He wants that cap.
Yeah, I want that merch. All right.
Congratulations, Des.
Was that your
Eight
only question, Darius?
Eighth
No,
last score
no,
coming
not
soon.
really. No.
All right. This is for
I was
you
about
guys,
to say,
so
it's-
go for it.
One thing that I'm getting quite, I'm not annoyed about, but noticed recently, ever since I started playing artillery a bit more,
Oh, Masters.
cannons,
There you go.
kill streak multiplier on it. I know it doesn't go up as much as the other artillery pieces because it was dominating the scoreboard before the artillery pieces came into play a lot more. But how come the mortars and the rockets can get so far up the leaderboard with a multi-kill, whereas the cannons are stuck at 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th place at the end of a round, even though they've got 10, 11, 12 kills?
Oh yeah, I've noticed this. So like with cannonballs, like you get less points for kills.
I think it's because
I've-
it takes a lot less skill, to do it. Actually, no. Let me
Oh,
rephrase that.
No.
Wait.
Hold on.
It's not
Artie,
easier.
there's a
Okay,
lot
Cheesebill
of
back
skill
in
in
here.
Artie.
Wait. Let me rephrase that.
Oh, let me get
Right,
Cheesebill in
so
here.
Everyone is
Cheesebill, we're
angry
talking
because
about
of their
Artie.
companies, but I feel like it's easier to get kills with a cannon.
We're talking about Artie.
I feel like it's easier to get kills with a cannon than it is with rockets and
Yeah,
mortars.
it's easy to get like a 1 or 2 piece with a single shot, but when you get like 5 or 6 people with one shot, I feel like you'd be rewarded with that. And I know the reason they done it beforehand was to just stop the cannon players topping the scoreboard after every line battle round, but it's not working when the Rocketeers and the multiplayers are still getting there, and the cannoneers are stuck down at the bottom of the scoreboard.
Real quick, QRR, I see you in chat.
I also
Thank you for coming.
Can I actually tune into this one because I
Yeah.
actually know the answer for
Yes,
this.
indeed.
It's because we have two different systems. We have one system is called multi-kill, which is killing multiple people like splash damage, and we have the kill streak itself. If you kill somebody with a cannon, or if you do multiple kills with a cannon, you're strictly speaking, according to the game, not performing a multi-kill. Like if they are chained behind each other, if you knock like 3 people over with one cannonball, that's I think we are not considering that a multi-kill because it didn't happen in the same frame.
That's for bounce, right?
Yeah, that bounces basically don't. But if you do like a direct hit, that is a multi-kill, so that gets multiplied. Like if you kill multiple people.
That's interesting.
Huh.
So the reason why mortars get more score and rockets is because they work with splash damage and they get multi-kills. So they multiply more than cannons because cannons usually only kill with passing through people.
Yes,
don't imply mit grenades, also the cannonball with grenades in it. Don't do it, please.
How is
Spilled
it?
all over myself. My pants are now wet.
Yep.
Grenades for grenadiers.
That's stupid.
And yeah, the last thing about it obviously is that cannons, that mortars and mortars don't have recoil, so they will always stay at the same spot where you fire them.
True.
And same for the rockets. So they're easier to zero in on something.
Yeah, I mean,
is that on purpose for the mortar?
I can't answer that. I don't think so. Actually, I think
feel
it
like
should
if
have
you added
recoil.
recoil to the mortar, it's
It
going
should
to
have
be
recoil,
completely
yes.
useless
So
to
what?
players.
How would a
it's
mortar?
already pretty hard.
How would it
it's
how
already
would a
really
mortar
hard to
have
use
recoil?
mortar with...
Wait.
Well,
How-
it's still something that's on a
Wouldn't it
swivel.
just go into the ground?
Can we have the ability to shove
Like,
other players
let's go
in the
to
mortar?
science class, like physics, high school physics, net force here.
Yeah, Lob City.
The net force is going into the ground just because it's on a swivel.
Yeah, to be fair, there's only like a handful of players that know how to use a mortar reliably every single time they get their hands on it. So I don't think adding like a balance into it just yet is the way to go.
Doesn't it make sense though? Like, if it's able to move on a swivel and it's not able to go further into the ground, then the energy will be transferred. Like, I'm like using way more words to say something that's very easy to tell just by looking at it.
Well, if
Yeah,
you
but at
make
some point
mortars
you got to
have, like,
sacrifice being realistic for enjoying the game.
because mortars will be basically impossible to use if you make it even harder.
Yeah, I think I brought this up earlier as there's been a recent rise in the popularity of black powder games. You know, American Revolution, Napoleonic, American Civil War, and if those games were realistic, as in true to the games, a bit like maybe War of Rights in terms of realism, everything would take much longer and I think be a lot less fun. I'm not trying to say that War of Rights isn't
Agreed.
a fun game, but it's just a different type of fun to hold fast at.
I'm just saying so from personal experience of like the mortar is either too hard to use or too easy to use.
I think it's because it depends on the map. So if you're doing like Siege, you could just set it up at one, like you could just set up the tilt properly and just keep on firing. If it's like a line battle, then you have to constantly adjust your shot. That's why,
Well, then maybe a little bit of deviation so it doesn't land in exactly the same spot.
I mean, you can't really see where you're aiming with a mortar, so you have to shoot first and then see where it
Yeah,
lands.
I
and
don't
adjust
think
from there. And if you
mortar's
can't
What
not
would you guys
really
think about the implementation of howitzers? They're kind of a cross between cannons and mortars.
It'd
They'd be
basically
way
be
too
a
overpowered,
rocket
I
with
think.
wheels.
Yeah.
Except
I
much
want to
faster.
I don't think you need the house now
but
that
on
range rockets are in the game anyway.
I want to see them, but on big maps,
Mm.
not small ones.
So kind of like cavalry, where they're on certain maps.
Basically
Yeah.
on real maps. And not like, say, what was it? Le Marche or some of those like town maps.
La Marche,
Especially.
That brings me to another point that I was gonna talk about. It's really quick and simple. It's this idea or a concept of a Napoleonic-esque village or some type of urban civilization map. So it would be a lot more street-based, help-based warfare. And that's just a concept that I was interested in. I thought about that for a
I
bit
think
today.
it
So
would be a
basically
lovely
like
addition
fighting
to the
in the
game.
city.
Some urban combat, right? So, yeah, I'm definitely up for that.
Ooh, cool.
Ooh.
I personally would think that more interesting than Canyon.
Just like a map where it's based in
Rule
people
of scanning,
firing
right?
close combat.
We talked about this before. We talked about maps before the podcast, and then I have to ask him. We have right now a custom map here in Hotfest where you can do a little bit stuff of that. We have now houses, we have flags, we have a little bit of movements. Can we not also implement trees and a little bit of what do you say?
Vegetation.
Yeah, vegetation. Can we not add it so we can build our own maps?
I believe we already have spawnable props that are trees. That's what I remember.
Yes,
Well, wait,
yes.
So
wait,
it's
is
just bushes,
vegetation?
trees, rocks, yeah, buildings.
Rocks.
I know tree stuff, but like bushes, I guess.
Yeah, there's some cattails, some Boston ferns. I'm just looking at the wiki, by the way.
Yeah,
because
I don't have it up.
poor fellow actually made a screenshot of every spawnable prop and
Yeah,
put it into
yeah,
the
yeah,
wiki.
I saw-
Amazing.
Dude,
Thank you, by the
props
way.
to
If
follow.
fellows
Salute to
listening,
him.
thank. Yeah, thanks.
Right.
But yeah, we can always
But I
expand on it.
Yeah, but I literally that we some people also stop playing Hotfest because of they are tired of the maps.
Yeah,
It's literally they have played the maps over and over again. I don't know how many times I played.
Yeah,
Classic
I
Planes.
guess to that
Yeah, like
point.
I think something that I'd like to do at least, hopefully within the short term, because right now, like our only artist is busy with other matters, right? But I'd like to at least bring in some more planes maps within the
Yeah.
game. Like I know, don't worry, it won't be another snowy planes map, but some other planes maps with other variants would definitely
Yeah,
look
and I think we talked
one
about this a
more
little
desert
bit.
map would be cool.
We talked about this a little bit earlier about in the public servers having more of those plane maps rotate since Cav's in, and I think it would be kind of cool with trying to just set up little pubby lines like running around just having fun, kind of that semi RP kind of public server.
Encouraging the actual play style of the
that.
game.
Yeah.
I've been noticing it wasn't even a little before this update. I've been seeing even like more from the public player side. A lot more people are trying to get organized in these maps, and it just doesn't work because they weren't exactly made. Like for example, was it literally if it's not a plains map,
Marsh.
people still even guys that aren't even in regiments are brand new to the game are always trying to set up lines and everything. And even try and go over
Yep.
to the other side and do stuff like that. But
Exactly.
yeah, that's what I was saying. A lot more people are wanting to get more of the line battle maps back into the rotation because I'm starting to notice
Could
more
I
people just want it
entertain?
organized, even with Cav.
Could I entertain the
Seems to be better that
idea
way.
of a Waterloo map? Because the map, it's quite a basic map. What?
No,
Quite
go
a
for it. Go
basic
for
map.
it.
Like it got the plains. It has a hill, and then it has 3 farmhouses. And I think that would be quite a cool conquest map because the farmhouses were strategic locations.
Yes, definitely. Like I was all as well for the idea of making historical maps, right? But when it comes to that, if we're going to do them, we want to do them right. And like usually,
Completely agree.
it takes more time and effort if we really want to be and stay true to a lot of the stuff that is within the area. Then it's going to take a while. I'm not saying that if we ever get to do a historical map, it's going to be 100% accurate, but I would at least want to get an accurate representation of the barns, right, which saw a good majority of the combat during the battle, and such a pivoted battle, if not the most pivoted battle during the era, would definitely need to be done right in terms of the map.
Would you be able to speak more on the topic of urban combat?
Well, I
Because
pulled
that's
2
just
more
something
people in,
that
by the way.
I've just been inquiring about for quite a while now. And I know that the Napoleonic Wars and main Napoleonic era wars, such as the American Civil War, they were fought in massive fields and farmhouses or around farmhouses. But I think urban combat would just be a very interesting thing, more of a close quarters approach.
Yes, definitely. Like, of course, even during those really big battles, right? We saw garrisons, right? Like, and entrenching within barns and other buildings within the area. So even though a lot of the battles happened within open fields, but combat did happen elsewhere as well, and we can try to represent that in a sense even with the current assets that we have within the game and create an urban map scenario.
So real quick, I just moved 4 more people in. I just saw him sitting.
so many people.
Lob City's back. He has a lot more questions. He told me. Alexaroth is here. He's from the KRA. You're like the PR man now. I don't know what you are.
More or less, yeah.
Okay. We also have Dimitri from the 8th LR here and Merc J.
Salut. Can I just say something? RT best company.
RT's best company. That is goddamn right. All right.
Oh, picture of it.
Sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
Cavalry.
First you got my quarries, now you got my attention.
All right. Just
I wonder who the loading person is.
I think it's Master. All right, to get back on topic. Where were we?
You're gonna ask Lob first.
Oh yeah, Lob, go for it. You had questions.
Oh yeah, give me 1 minute. Go ahead, somebody else.
Michael Dimitri.
All right, Alex, you go for it.
It's so goddamn confusing now.
Someone else can go first for me as well. So
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
When will you add new faction like the Ottoman Empire?
Ooh.
Ottoman. Ooh.
Reflex, can you?
Yeah, you're asking a pretty big question, but I'm sorry I cannot talk much about that.
Paul.
I don't
That's
think
interesting.
We'll rub our fingers together.
That's very
I
interesting.
don't think he wants to talk about no, but I don't think he wants to talk about
I mean,
the Russians or the Austrians or something like this.
Yeah,
Don't
there's
ask him
been
a question about that.
Don't patronize the man.
People that people have been well.
Here's a big question.
Okay, go for it.
Like, so Napoleonic Wars, they were set in like the 1800s, very early 1800s. You know, around the year 1812. You know, there's a conflict happening. You know, across the pond.
Oh boy.
Is there ever gonna be like an America DLC?
War 1812,
We don't want the war of 1812.
Only if I get to voice them.
And community rise
Oh.
up.
We're going back to that, are we? Well, an interesting topic, right? Maybe some more mobility for the game after we do a full release, which I think would allow players to do that on their own if they wish for. So something like that, I think, would be a very interesting set of updates to have and plan out after the game is released out of early access. Since, in case I haven't made it clear before, one of our objectives right now is to actually keep with our promises and take the game out of EA. And in order for that to happen, we need to stick with what's mostly written in our roadmap.
Agreed.
I mean, but at the same time, like, I don't know how many people there are in your group working on Holdfast, but again, just like hats off for like however little many men you have like making this game. Like, honestly, I feel like you guys don't get enough recognition sometimes.
Well, thank you very much, kindly.
Very
But
true.
our team is small. Yeah, don't worry about that. I mean, there's 2 programmers working right now. There's going to be some change soon, as I said before, but we'll be able to announce it later. Perhaps
So
next
wait,
week
what's
even
left?
we'll be able to talk more about that. But yeah, I mean, there's only a single artist, and I just produce. I don't do much dev work, so.
So wait, what is left in the roadmap? I'm thinking building destruction.
I remember that, yeah. As far as, because I mentioned, or someone mentioned in the chat asking if, like, will cannonballs be able to travel through buildings, like, just come crashing and, like, demolishing stuff? As far as map destructibility,
I
aside from
believe
just
there
blowing up
is-
barricades.
I can answer that question again, because I'm quite sure that Rexiel put in that piece of code when the destructible object gets in the way of a cannonball and the destructible object dies, then it actually goes through. So I think it actually goes through if it's a final hit on.
Ooh, foreshadowing.
Yeah, so it
Yeah,
might be
I'm
possible.
tired of my
something like
cannonball
that,
being
but-
blocked by a chair.
Praise be, right? The greatest addition to the game.
Sapper meta.
Oh man.
What the fuck?
gotta say though, I appreciate the addition to antlers and snowballs for already.
Oh,
yeah, that's
give like a
great.
round of applause for that.
Jack Frost is the new armor.
And the plethora of Christmas carols on the pianos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are
Very
fire
nice.
tunes, my guy. Fire, straight heat.
Back when rap was good.
This is a small thing, but I'd like to thank you for the little message on the loading screen saying that the spawn waves are for rounding people up before going out.
Hey, clap.
And the biggest thing I think we've been waiting for, like, forget Cav, forget everything, like scrolling on the leaderboard.
Let's go.
Come on, clap it up. Can I get an
One of the
amen?
most,
Come on.
one of the most requested features for the public servers, scrolling.
Guys, let's give it to ourselves for existing here. Come on.
Yeah.
I did have a question about cosmetics. Is there gonna ever be a point at which, with like the line infantry classes for the factions, that you can like scroll through different uniforms of different regiments? Like not a ton of them, but is there gonna be like, you know, like a line infantry class that looks like, you know, this specific regiment from that time, or this specific regiment, or is there anything as far as that goes?
I'm pretty
Perhaps
sure
it's
they already
something
are,
we
but
can,
just as far as
yeah.
specific names, like the class itself.
Like
Yeah.
Frycore or
Yeah, I know there's like
understand that.
Fistula in line. Yeah.
Like obviously, right now having two line infantrymen being displayed within the spawn menu is just a temporary solution. But if after release, of course, we can consider to maybe bring forward some additional variations. But we'll have to see about that. So I can promise everything.
in terms of uniform variation, I feel it would be interesting because right now, when someone is leading a line or a general force of, I don't know, some branch of the military,
gaggle.
they use a different looking class, or primarily the cannoneer class, to act as sort of a NCO in the line. Will we see, or is there a possibility of the addition of a NCO class that kind of works admin in the field?
It would fit the game, but in all honesty, at the moment we have no plans on bringing an NCO class into the game. However, like on the topic of uniforms, something which we have been experimenting on, and Drexel was working on when he has some free time. Not that he has much of, but you know where this is going. Was the ability to exchange textures for existing uniforms so that you can customize and create without having to hack the actual client game files. And you can exchange textures to change the look of the uniform for that specific class.
Also, will we ever see the inclusion of the French old guard? Classic blue coats.
That's the other question. How much cost it to make a class?
Yeah, the development
It's plenty.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
because-
it's plenty of money. It costs quite a lot. It costs quite a lot. Like everything.
Say only the money what it costs to Jay, and then he sends the money. Then he gets this old guy.
Yeah, Jay will send it to you.
That's the only thing what we can do.
Well, I mean, it would be like off my parents' credit card, but we can work something out.
V-Bucks, where are my V-Bucks at? Ah!
Especially
Where
for
is
how long
this
it just
conversation
took
going?
for
Are we?
refresh to year.
I think I know the faces are randomly kind of generated based on who you spawn in with, but is there ever going to be the addition of facial hair? Because
Beards
you know,
for
the French,
sappers.
we gotta get
Don't
Q
give
mustaches
him
for the
this.
Frenchmen.
I mean, yeah, mustaches.
Beards for sappers.
Then yeah, there's a bunch of clean cut Scots running around, and that just like. Oof.
Like if I do,
Will we ever see the addition of Scottish voice acting?
Perhaps.
Have you been in the melee arena, man? The killstreak voice actor.
Yeah, if you're not
Stab out, kill.
That's brutal. That is.
That's the best voice in the game.
All right,
Like,
back
if I'm
on
playing as a Highlander, I don't want to
back
sound
on
like I'm from
topic.
South London.
Like when it comes to animations, character modeling, and stuff like that, it does take a lot of time, and it's a lot of resources too.
We appreciate all of it.
How about
So actually, I
Yeah,
know
how about-
Alexa Roth, you've been sitting. You got anything you want to talk about?
Coincidentally, it was just asked and answered. So yeah.
Damn.
I have a question. Will
Yeah, go
you
for it.
add new maps soon?
Oh, we covered this earlier.
Oh,
Yeah, new maps, like something that we'd like to do at the very least is to bring forth another naval map, because there's really almost
Mama
nothing,
fist pump.
almost nothing made out of them. And at the moment, there's the Caribbean map, which we are working on repurposing, of course, and making it look better before bringing it on the official servers, which is currently undergoing works right now.
Actually,
And-
on the
and
topic
after
of
that-
naval, there's a lot of naval changes we haven't covered.
Yeah.
I haven't read through
Get out
it,
your patch notes,
but
boys.
Yeah, but I've read one thing, but it's very fun, what also Rexy showed me, that you literally can now with the X go on the enemy ship and chop it up.
Yes, you can chop off the ship now.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna pull
That
one
is
more
very
person
funny.
in.
That's what I want.
Aaron, you're in
Reflex,
here now.
could we possibly see a naval map set in the middle of the Strait of Gibraltar, so you could see like that would be really dope.
That would be pretty good.
The Battle of Trafalgar.
That was that map will rock.
Yeah, that will make me play naval.
That joke went over everyone's head.
real
Okay.
quick. So actually, wait, hold on.
No,
Real
it didn't.
quick.
It was just a bad joke.
So wait, what are the naval? What are the naval's changes? Because it seemed like it went kind of under the radar, this update.
Yes, definitely. I'm pretty sure it got a bit foreshadowed by the cavalry, but it's there, and there is a separate section on that quite massive changelog, and there were changes when it comes to reducing the range of artillery pieces and their velocity slightly to bring engagement closer together. This should also cover the issue with coastal guns being able to snipe off naval vessels, and there's been some tweaks to certain ships to make them more viable, including the smaller vessels against the bigger ones, so that they can at least make an impact. And what else was being done?
So really, you're trying to get the battles more closer together.
Yes, exactly. Because
like
obviously, sniping of the distance, it can be fun for a short while, but ultimately, if you get things up close and more personal, and maybe provide an opportunity
as someone
for
who's
boarding engagement with carpenters.
As someone who's played Blackwake a lot before, like
My man.
I like the melee in Holdfast like a lot, because not only you could like pivot your shots and like where you wanted to go, it just feels good.
Basically, what you're saying, the shooting is satisfying as.
Oh yeah, that's the main
On the
thing.
topic of the Holdfast cavalry, I know everyone's thinking this, so I'm just saying this. Will we ever see the inclusion of lancers?
Yes, Ulans, please.
The Polish. I think
pretty big reveal, right? If I said a yes or a no at this point in time, but I'm afraid I don't have the answer.
I think the fan favourites are the Polish Legion Lancers for the French and the Brandenburg Uhlans for the Prussians.
Spicy.
Don't forget the Cossack Lancers for the Russians.
I have obviously a question for you, Reflex. Are you a little bit right now in next year? There's 3 games coming out. What's the rival a little bit of Holdfast? You have Battlecry of Eden, but some of the Battlecry of Eden guys say it's Holdfast 2.0. Then you have Prime and Load. It's literally a little bit of a smaller game. But then you have also Bannerlord 2 coming out. How would you counter this kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're both different games, right? With different communities. We have our own community, which I'm pretty sure enjoy and love the game, and just because there are other titles which we don't know that a lot of the community is interested in because they are historically based, then doesn't mean that we're going to stop developing on what we have right now.
Yeah, and to add to
It's their own
topic,
things. He focuses
Yeah.
on making Holdfast greater.
Make Holdfast great
Who
again.
cares about the other games? Just keep making Holdfast greater.
Yeah, it's not like if you play one, you can't play the other.
I mean, it's different community. It's different communities for every game, obviously.
Everyone said
different.
War of Rights was going to be good, and then
with War of Right, it's a different style. It's more of like because you don't see.
It's not a matter of which game is better. That's up for the person to decide which.
Yeah, no.
game
I
they
mean
like.
It's all
every
personal preference.
and not only that, every game has a different style to everything. So you can't compare apples to apples. Like, oh, this is Holdfast 2.0, because you're never going to have that. It's particular to the own game or the developer and how they do their style of
I feel like the majority of regiments, Holdfast is the root game. Like, no matter what happens, the majority of people are going to come back to Holdfast. So I doubt, don't want to like preemptively say it, but I doubt it's going to have too much of an effect on Holdfast at the moment.
Especially since it's literally the #1 newest Napoleonic game out there, of course, with its predecessor, the Napoleonic Wars mod.
Well,
This was
also
the
with
game I'd say most people look forward to, but yeah, like I said again, it's all personal preference.
With naval, and we talked a little bit about that, is in a lot of naval events, people are encouraged to capture enemy ships. Are we ever going to have the ability to literally capture an enemy ship like you would a checkpoint base, and then allow your friendlies to spawn on that ship? That way you just don't have enemies spawning over and over and over on your ship that you now are like piloting.
Interestingly enough, Walki is still here, right?
Yes, I am still here.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, during this update, one of the things which we really wished we had the time to do, but unfortunately, Walki was running out of his month stay back in Malta.
Yeah.
Was indeed being able to capture vessels, which would, of course, have its game mode changed and designed to promote close boarding action by rewarding you with addition to the score when capturing a vessel rather than sinking it. But unfortunately, we didn't have much time to continue developing that because we had to focus on stability to release the update.
We're getting close to 2 hours. So I like to start wrapping up the podcast a little bit. So if you have any questions, go for it right now. Oh, somebody lagged.
Yeah, that's me.
I just want to say also like that I think one of the main things I just want to say like good job on was like there's now like chat restrictions, which I think is a good thing because pubs could get really toxic sometimes. I think that's a really good addition.
Speaking of chat,
Boy.
I have wanted this for so long. All the time,
Here we go.
I've seen issues where people are having a huge argument in a chat that the admins can't see, and it just blows up out of proportion, and then it spills over into all chat, and then there's just a huge problem. Could there possibly be any way for admins logged into the console to see all of the chats, not just class or not just the all chats and the recruitment chat and team chats?
I got something
but
to
like
add
all
to
the
that,
class
too.
restricted.
To add
chats.
on to that also, what I notice is if you go directly to free roam cam, you can't see the chats at all. You have to spawn in first, then go to free roam cam, so you could type.
Yeah.
You could type in chat.
Yes, that's something which we, even though it does seem like a minor change, but how things are coded in at the moment, it will require substantially work for you to be able to type in chat before spawning, and so unfortunately we first have to spawn in and then go to the free roam camera.
Okay, just a thought. That's all.
Yeah, one more thing for the admins. This is another thing with the spectator. When we're in free roam camera and we're admin an event, I don't know if it's been in the update, but when you're not able to like use the general chat for like basic questions from players, you don't want to make like a generic broadcast that 99% of the people that are playing the event don't want to see. You'd have to go into spectate, lose your position in the air, re-go into the free roam camera and then lose your position where you were. Would that be possible to just be able to use the general chat when you're admin the free roam spectate?
Maybe press tab and have an admin section.
Like as I said, unfortunately, if you want to be able to type in chat, then you're going to have to spawn in first and then go to the free roam camera. If you switch from spectate to free roam, then I believe that you should still be able to type in chat. So what you need to do is before the battle starts, you need to spawn in the match.
So actually, let me add on to that, and Hable has some question. He was like, well, he would like to see a freeze button added to the admin panel. Sometimes I don't feel like slay/kick is necessary, but it needs to be a freeze Rambo. I don't necessarily like
freeze Rambos.
So say like a sapper is running at you with an explosive barrel. If you freeze him, you won't be able to run anymore. You can like safely get away.
No, he's just stationary.
I don't think
Just
it's in
Rambos in
that
general.
context, Jay.
I think
no, I'm
freeze.
just using an example.
Yeah, but freeze. I do believe that it would be a nice addition, yes, for administrative tools, and it should be possible.
But
mean, you
literally,
could
in every event, be posting the rules. You can read the rules, and they literally should read the rules, and they must know it literally by heart at night now.
you know what?
If they're going around like Rambos, and that's also always done by guys within the regiment who can the rules, then I gutturally slay them directly.
You know the little.
Well, you always gotta
anonymous.
assume though, like in this case, that there are people. We have lots of translations in this game. Like there can be some people that they can't read English, so they will
Think
just
of it,
translate.
it's the same sort of thing with a melee. If someone with melee gets in and gets stomped by a guy, they're never going to play the game again. If they come into their first event and they get slain for like standing out of line for like 5 seconds rather than just getting frozen and then like explain the rules to before they're allowed to play the game. If they get slayed straight away, they're never going to play the game again.
Exactly.
I'm talking about regiment guys. Now I'm talking not about puppies.
Yeah, but of course, like adminship is in there twice, right? So we always advise, like, if you know if it's in a public line battle and you know the players and experience, then this is why we provided you with the direct message functionality. So send him a PM, and then if unfortunately he's impacting gameplay, then we have
One
no other
thing
choice.
I was talking to someone about earlier in terms of the rules of an event and the rules being accessible. You know, on the side of your screen, when you're standing in line, it will say like whose line it is and the order that you're given. It would be nice that in private events, if the rules could be permanently put on the side of the screen, so people could check them.
No, please not.
No, okay, so
please
wait,
not.
wait,
No,
hold
no,
on.
Wait till how long
So
private rules are.
so with the whole
Yeah, but obviously
wait,
not like
hold
big.
on.
It would be like shrink,
Jay.
minimized.
So the recent update to Cav also brought in a like message MOTD or message of the day pop up where you have to hit continue on. You could put your rules in there. It's all in config. I know for EU8 everyone has different rules, so you can't have different configs for different events and have the rule set stay. But for private events they could do that. I know like our event we could like the NA Wednesday event, since it's it's hosted privately but it's public, we could set those rules up in the MOTD page.
It just needs to be a bit consolidated because it's not scrollable at the moment. But
Right, it doesn't scroll, so it has to fit in that window.
It's really necessarily needed, then we can try to bring it in. But obviously, don't expect a player to read through a massive line of text.
I remember
Try
I
to make
asked,
things simple.
I asked Rexiel if he could make it scrollable, and he said he couldn't. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. I think this was during the beta, the closed beta.
Yes, because back then we were a bit of a, how can I describe it politely? We were quite swamped with trying to get the cavalry done in time.
Oh yeah. That's also one thing you shouldn't. There's things like where you're like, oh, we're gonna have it done 2019, and then you got the email for 2019, and then you get pushed on the deadline for December. Basically, it's basically December end. But one recommendation is like don't promise things to the community and then have it delayed, because then the community will be up in arms, I guess.
Yeah, of course. Like I don't think there's been much instances where we promised content and then we had to delay them for longer than a week at most. But it's also good both for the dev team and us when it comes to development to set goals and deadlines and targets. And like with each and every other human being, sometimes we simply get caught up in something and we continue working and working and working on it. And
But
the more features you add, the more bugs you add.
it shouldn't be a thing to like you have to force this update in, and there could be problems like that.
All I know is 4 months ago we were promised Cav before 2020, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
Don't get any more specific than that, unless you're 100% certain. Just don't even put like a date out. We honestly, if anything, we enjoy being surprised.
Yeah.
Just don't even say anything. Don't
keep
hint,
up the
We
don't-
just wake up one morning and all of a sudden there's Austria at our feet. We're like, what?
Just keep the good work.
Lots of game devs, they release things on the deadline, but it's not done, it's not polished. It's important that even if it's not released on the deadline, that it's in a releasable condition. Like
Yeah, but it's my job to try to find that balance, of course, right? But if Cavalry wouldn't have been in a state where it couldn't have been released, then we wouldn't have. But obviously, we've been planning for this for quite a few months, and I mean, Cavalry took
I don't even think there's a
over.
balance issue with Cavalry. I think it's just implementing into the game in events as it already is. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with Cavalry.
It's more talking about like the schedule of when to release the update, right? Because usually we put something in beta, and that's when I know that an update is close to release. Since we use those beta tests mostly for testing, but also to get that feedback from the players.
Yeah, I'm with Darius on the Cavalry opinion, as someone that's also played the OG Mountain Blade, I feel like the Cavalry has not only improved from that game, but Cavalry, when it was released, I think lots of people thought it'd be very buggy. But I feel like it's very polished, the mechanics are very good, and I feel it's very balanced. I feel like the only thing that's not balanced in it is the regimental rules concerning Cavalry, which will be altered over time, obviously.
That's always something that I... Go ahead.
Before you continue, I was gonna start the giveaway. So hold on, let me. I'm giving away a copy. So for the public players that don't have Holdfast, I'll be giving away a copy of Holdfast. If you already have a copy of Holdfast, I'll give away something else less than $10. I mean, no, I'm just so hold on. Let me. What is this giveaway?
Should get a channel participate.
While you're looking for that, there's the age-old question I think needs to be answered.
So actually, hold on stream. If you type in ! raffle, you'll be in the raffle.
You know what to do, boys.
You know what to do.
You don't have to do.
! raffle. All right, continue though.
There it is.
So the one big question I think that needs to be answered is this is gonna be a hard one, but who is Reflex's favorite?
No.
Wait.
Oh boy.
Wait, I didn't hear the question. Wait, favorite what?
Regiment.
Oh, you
can't. No, don't even go there. Don't even go there.
Answer. Don't answer.
Banned.
You just say the blackfish and then boom.
Wait. Okay, wait, hold on.
80-90.
Hold on. Can we have a moment for moment of silence for a Doctor Squad here?
Who's that?
No! Heresy! Burn at the stake!
It's worth Olafur. You're a public player.
Get out of here. Get out.
No, it's okay.
I was invited here.
I like how when
I try not to be a
starts
serious
screaming,
thing.
It just gets very, very vibrating.
Rip the Doctor Squad. They will be missed.
Yeah, they will be missed.
All right. Raffle's still going on, so ! raffle. We could continue a little bit and then I'll close it.
Jesus Christ.
I guess I had one thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Back to Cav related stuff.
Oh yes.
Especially in private events, private line battles, there's been this pattern of organizers pretty much coming up with rules even before Cav like officially came out. And what I noticed in this pattern of rules is that they've been like artificially nerfing cavalry just like before they even saw how it actually behaves.
Kind of guilty of that. A little guilty.
Yeah.
Prematurely.
And
Yes.
it feels like there's a lot of potential wasted. Like there's events that ban dragoons entirely. There's events that force you to be in a line to fire as cavalry. And yeah, for the purpose of game balancing, in my opinion, it probably would have been a good thing for organizers who just let the people, give them as much freedom as they can, obviously within some limits, like I don't know, skirm, semi-skirm rules, something like that, and then balance downwards from there, not just start with.
So
I mean, there's some
actually-
events that have like 4 horses on each side. Like, okay, what am I gonna do with that?
So our Tuesday private event that we have during NA times, what we do is I implement a 10% rule. So it's a variable. It depends on how many players are on the server, but how it varies is if you have, say, a server filled with 150 people, the amount of skirms total allowed is 15, and then you divide by 2 on each side. So we've been doing that for skirms lately, and it has been very balanced, like against lines.
Yeah, that's proportional balance, and that I can get behind 100%. I've seen
Yeah.
it done in some events, and it's a good thing. I'm talking mostly about specific rules that are meant to like prevent cav being used the way it's meant to be used,
Can I
especially
just-
things like.
So actually,
that's up to the hosts, honestly.
It's a work in progress, literally.
I mean,
You
so
must-
here,
you must
actually, with
Go, Vijay.
JV, you're pretty knowledgeable on this, so go for it.
Yes, as the cavalry leader of the
Oh,
I
come
know. To every single person that is watching this,
All right,
to
go
every
ahead, go
person
ahead.
that is watching this, please do not limit cavalry in stupid ways.
do it.
Like, do not limit
Please define
dragoons to
stupid.
firing in a line. Do
Or-
not do that.
or removing
At
dragoons
Zen,
completely,
at
like some
Zen,
events
at
like that.
Zen, at Zen,
I
at
found,
Zen.
I feel like the most
Out of
balanced
cavalry.
way
Alright,
I play
wait,
dragoons is that having them. I think like when you make the dragoons stop, doesn't matter if they're in line or not. If you have them stop before they fire, I found personally that's been the most balanced way to use them.
I feel like that can work if there's lots of dragoons.
So if you're having like 3 dragoons sprint past a line of 10 plus, they're gonna snipe 3 people guaranteed.
Yeah.
And there's no like
What I think should be happening
counterplay.
is if you're charging, the only class that should be allowed to fire is Hussars because they have a pistol. That makes sense. If you're charging Dragoons, shouldn't be allowed to fire, but the only place where a Dragoon should be allowed to fire is within a compass range of the group of cavalry.
Within
Or
spacing, yeah.
Compass range is a bit hard because the different classes, if you are to mix the classes, which certain
It's-
regiments have been doing, cuirassiers ride a lot
it's
slower.
not.
than
It shouldn't be a
Hussars.
hard rule. It should be more of a
Yeah, but then
guideline.
again, that comes into just how people play cavalry. As time goes on, people are going to get more used to the controls, and then you can start clamping
But the
down
thing
on,
is,
like,
cuirassiers
movement
ride
friction
slower
and
than
stuff.
hussars because they're heavier, and they can fall out of compass range because the hussars will be in one place and they'll be in another. They'll be trailing out the back.
I mean,
The
that's
hussars will be out the front.
for the cav leader to adjust speed and all that of the formation.
Right.
To be fair, so.
It's all up to hosts and who's leading what in Cav.
My simple thought is like I'm okay with them running around as a group and firing on the move. Obviously,
It's just a matter of spacing.
I think they should be in a group together instead of scattered all over the place. It just helps as admin.
Yeah.
And then I say like you have to have at least 3 in a group. If you fall below that, then you got to dismount or charge. And
So
then
that's a good number.
for
Agreed.
all charge, actually for all charge, Rexiel, a little suggestion is if we could have a forced dismount command. So when we hit all charge, it would dismount them automatically.
I don't like the idea of this.
Please.
Don't
I don't like it because of the cavalry.
No, I never said why I didn't like it.
Well, it's not okay. I mean, it's for event admins to either use it or
All
not
charge
use it.
usage.
Yeah,
It
I
seems
mean,
like the TRR have the rules down pretty good. It's like maybe we should hold the TRR rules as the golden standard for cavalry rules.
I mean, it's been out for like 2 weeks. I don't think there's enough time to actually,
I think
It's
my
still all
favorite
work
set
in
of rules,
progress.
and I say this in the most unbiased way possible because there are some rules that I don't agree with, is the ones that we had at our event today. I feel like that was very good cavalry rules.
Actually,
See
Reflex.
the most thing for that, yeah.
Thoughts on a forced dismount command?
I think that would be good.
Well, it should let it go on for a
Wait,
couple more weeks.
Yeah,
guys,
during
quiet.
public, definitely.
I don't think it should act compulsively based on
guys,
after a week.
guys, let Reflex talk.
Yeah, like once again, like we're all about providing freedom to the players and the administrators to hold events however they wish, but it's not something that I would personally force if I were ever to host an event myself, because if a cavalry manages to survive, up until the end of the round, then you're just simply making him useless, right? And part of the useless of cavalry is indeed harassing. So
Yeah.
if they buy their time well and they do their job well, they should be rewarded for it. Now, I'm not saying
Yes.
that you should encourage cavalrymen to run around the map until the round ends. If they do that, they're going to be putting their entire team at a disadvantage anyhow. So
No, I guess it's to the style of the event admins and what they're trying to portray. I guess
I've seen plenty of rules, which of course, right, this is not something that we get involved in, but
Yeah.
something I always advocate for is to first and foremost the way that we balance things out. All the classes, the reason why we went into such long pains to develop the class system, which I'd like to continue expanding on, is a good balance between all the classes. And some events literally are either line only, so they're void of any playable defenses, they're void of either rocket launchers, or they only have a single artillery piece going on, and there's a line infantryman, there's no skirmishers, there's no rifleman involved. But I've seen line battles where they incorporate most of what we have in the game, and it is really amazing, and it works out well in terms of balance. So you can always find a good way on how to balance it out competitively.
Okay. We're gonna actually. I want to start the first giveaway. It seems like it's 11
Maggot,
people.
you've been fairly silent on this. Do you have anything to say?
Here, continue, actually.
Does Refleax have any questions for us?
Oh yeah, Reflex. Yeah. Hold on, Reflex.
Reflex, any questions for your community?
Do I? Should I?
Should I?
Yes.
I would go for it.
I have a question.
Yeah, go
What
ahead.
is the community's favorite regiment?
TKK! Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I mean, as seeing as only one of them has produced a full feature-length film, I don't think there's any question in doubt.
Oh my
I'm just gonna,
Yeah, 21st.
There's no Disney produced free.
Everyone's
That's,
equal. There's no favorites here.
Let me ask a legitimate question then, right? Something which is a bit more serious. Which update would you consider the most favorite?
The Prussians being added.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a big one. That was a big one. Like whole regiments changed their persona.
The July officer one.
I think
Personally,
the
one
officer,
of my
I think
favorite
map
updates.
system.
Cannoneer priority.
Yeah, that was my favorite one.
Yeah.
The naval update.
When the cannonball
That was
bounced.
sad.
Actually, yeah, naval's a big one. That's true.
Personally, I really, really loved the fact that you spent I don't know how long you spent on it, but it felt like a month-ish just on pure optimizations and nothing else. I really appreciated that.
Touche.
Yeah.
That
a
was
question I had.
great.
The kind of a risque question, I don't know, but the cav models, the horse models on the cavalry are very realistic. What poor person had to spend time rendering like the horse ball? I'm just gonna say it. We've all seen it. We've all seen the jiggle physics. Come on, man. What poor man.
Amen for that question.
We can give dibs for such a suggestion to someone, right? Who shall not be named, of course, but it was Raikon's job to some of the art that you've mentioned. That Jackson did the expert proper stuff, like the saddles.
I was
and
fucking
uniforms.
sitting next to him. It was amazing.
It was amazing.
Mama, are we doing the
progress.
react first?
Oh wait, I made those Raikons in
Oh,
chat.
Raikon.
Yeah, it's time to pick a winner now.
Did he
Mama.
also
Pick a winner time? All right, here, let's do it. Let me minimize
The horses
this.
he didn't make, but Jackson, who's also done the good majority of the uniforms in the game, made the uniforms once again for the cavalrymen. He also did the saddles, takes care of the research for historical accuracy and everything.
So it looks like
I give him a little shout.
so the 11 people who are registered in here for the raffle, I think they all have hold fast. So what I'm gonna do instead is any game under $10, you get it on me. All right. Sounds good.
Or 2 Krispy Kreme donuts.
But
All right,
one
so
Is hentai Nazi up for grabs?
Oh my god, no.
so get your so I'll wait a
think
minute.
that's a
Get your
pretty
raffles
good
in!
deal.
Exclamation mark raffle, guys. Get your last ones in.
Shooting from the horse.
Last call.
With the
Also, where did the pink horse come from?
Can we see
Shooting
the
for
addition of
Shooting
unicorns?
for the horse. The RNG. When I sit on the horse and I aim with the rifle, it's so straight, and it has literally no RNG
Yeah, but that's
on it.
part of the buff that
You spelled
horse
raffle
gets.
wrong.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, it's basically a
but then
rifleman
in
on
the
a
other side,
horseback.
in the
There you
last shooting update, what they have done, and there was a shooting update where he literally changed also the bullet drop and the RNG
Last call on raffle.
on the cannons, on the muskets.
Yeah, but they're using a carbine, and the
Could we
Dragoon
get
buff
a
is
few
10% more accuracy.
Darius, I don't ask you. I ask Reflex.
Whoa.
So that's actually then I have done the RNG update. So can we not get back to the other shooting that we had before with the RNG, because it was literally better to shoot. And I'm shooting very much in this game.
Are you referring to just being on horseback, or
No,
as
no,
normal
also
infantry?
with the other muskets as well. And Rexion also can shoot.
I got the tickets now, Mamba.
Okay, good.
The RNG thing used to, what they have done with the shooting update with the bullet drops.
How do I sign up for this, Mamba?
Exclamation mark raffle.
How can you adjust it again back to the other thing, because it was very better to shoot what you can shoot right now. It's literally.
What you mean? It was more accurate before?
Yeah, it was a little bit more, not only accurate, it was not so much RNG in it. Also, the bullets go now right, left, straight forward. Also, if you take it with the Baker rifle was very accuracy, and also
Jesus. Jesus,
Yeah.
I'd rather it be like that. I'd rather it be like this now. Things are too
I
accurate.
prefer this right now.
I think you're talking about changes when the class system update was introduced, right?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So obviously some things were done to balance things out better, and back then, pretty much the entire outcry was that riflemen were too bloody overpowered.
Yeah, the riflemen. I completely agree with the riflemen. They're overpowered. They're too much OP. But I talk also about the muskets in the line, and also talk about the lights. The RNG has also changed in this muskets.
The
You
RNG
underpowered a little bit at the infantry as well.
Yeah, like it didn't change much though, because most of the values from the class system was obviously based on what we had before, right? Like this is something that
So it's like
don't-
a percent.
don't-
It's a percent value.
Yeah, but it's a percent value. But if I shoot before and I shoot after it, as I literally had almost learn me shooting new.
I wouldn't say that much. The shot calls are roughly the same anyway.
Yeah,
roughly the same.
Yeah, not.
But
obviously,
but
like
usually
some things will be changing a little bit, but when it comes to randomization, if you enable trajectories yourself, you can see for yourself how the bullet drop is working. But you can start to gauge distances because ultimately the horizontal deviation, right? It's there, right? That is a randomizing factor. But when it comes to bullet drop or verticality, you can learn your things to increase and improve your chances.
I mean more the vertical deviation.
Yeah,
Could
the
we
very-
get Roman in here? He's been waiting in the casting couch for a long
Oh
time.
yeah, here.
Let's take.
Roman.
More the vertical deviation.
Actually, I'll just move everyone in. Everyone's in here. All right, we're doing the raffle now. So.
Hey, Mamba, can I just say something?
Yeah, sure.
Nerf Cav.
Nerf. Why are you telling
Get
me?
him outta here.
Just because you're bad at defending against it doesn't mean it's
All
good.
right, here we go. All right, quiet on a sec.
He's the commander of the cavalry.
Yeah,
All
by
right,
the
we're
way,
closing the
when it comes to
entries.
firearms, we don't plan on changing them because
All right.
if we continue doing changes, then players are going to be more frustrated because they have to learn everything anew. So I think.
Okay.
I
All right,
the
ready, boys?
firearms
We're
are nice.
gonna pick a winner.
So.
And the winner is
Drum roll.
Gandiji? Gandij, you
I
there?
don't know what that is. Oh.
Oh.
Post.
Thank you.
Post your Steam link. Post your.
What's this?
Bruh.
Profile.
That was
Wait, quiet down. Again, Dej, can you post your Steam profile link? And then I'll add you. And do you have
Definitely
Holdfast
wasn't
already?
expecting that.
Do you have Holdfast already? Just message real quick.
In order to receive your prize, you must type hashtag Mamba the Communist in chat.
Also,
Oh, he already has Holdfast. Oh boy.
In order to win the prize, you must send your toe pics.
No, okay.
Whoa.
You know what? Alright, see ya, Merc. Bye-bye.
Why'd you move him up?
He's gone. Alright.
Merc, camel cab. Hey, Roman,
if you're
you're
gonna
here now.
win, if you're gonna get the prize, you need to join the Communist Party.
No, what?
What?
Anyway, moving
No,
on.
hell no.
Roman, you've been waiting quite patiently now for your chance to have some input in this. So,
Alright,
anything you'd like to say, friend?
No.
Good talk. Next topic.
hell, Roman, is he even here?
I think he's broke. We need to recharge him.
I have a question for the developer.
Do you have Holdfast already, Benji?
I think
He
he
said yeah, and he
did.
linked to Steam. Look in chat.
Okay.
If you gift it to him, you will see it anyways.
Yeah, let me double check. Yeah,
The question is, who in this chat right now sounds like Greek god?
That is Jay. That is Jay. He sounds like Greek god.
Okay, hold
Who do
on.
I sound like?
Again,
more
Jay,
importantly,
do
which
you
god?
want to
Which one
link
do I
a
sound like?
hold on, guys, quiet. Link a game that's under $10 and I'll buy it for you.
Are
And
you
I
sure you want to do
added
that,
you, by the
Mamba?
way. Yeah.
Soundpad.
So
Soundpad.
Let me do this through here.
Anti-Nazis on sale, just saying.
Jesus Christ.
There he
No,
is.
there's a game that I was linked.
I didn't buy it, I got gifted it. I have to say, it's a good game.
Yeah, Frank bought me Putin versus ISIS. It's a real blockbuster.
it's $1 though.
It's almost as
There's
good
no
as
look at the reviews
the
for Putin
Mexican
versus
Dream.
ISIS. It's great.
Putin versus
Anyways.
ISIS reviews are amazing.
Move that over there. Anyways, here, let me pull this back up. I'll talk to him on the side right now.
This is a general question. Anybody fitting to play some Cards Against Humanity?
Oh,
Yeah, hell yeah.
Can
Okay,
we,
let's see.
can we also stream that?
Stream Cards Against Humanity.
Stream
Banned.
But
Banned.
have you some more questions for developers? That's the question here. But I think they're very tired.
How is the weather in Malta?
Would you like to play Cards Against Humanity with
It's
us?
brilliant, actually. I think it's one of its strong points, really.
Who's the out of all the AGS devs? Who is the best one at Holdfast?
Ooh, that's a good
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Walki.
He is?
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Surprise.
So wait.
That's a surprise.
Can we organize like this would take a lot of like people to get together, but can we organize like a melee tournament with only AGS like members in it?
The main event, ladies and gentlemen.
Walki plays in the ESR sometimes. He plays in the ESR sometimes. Walki.
Are AGS hiring? Just
I
asking. for a friend.
see him also in there.
Our AGS
Alright.
hiring. Yes, in fact,
So
we are,
I
and we
am
can
buying
get
him
someone-
currently.
I know what I'm doing in my life.
Hold on.
Wait,
hold on.
what are you buying him?
Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Good choice.
They've brought out a Netflix series on that actually.
Yeah,
that's
we have to watch.
Superman
Yeah,
is on
they chose
Witcher.
the wrong actor though, not gonna lie.
No, they chose the perfect actors for Triss. It is
I'm
perfect.
just asking. I haven't played a Witcher
Jennifer.
game. Is it like canon with the game? Is it all law friendly?
The games aren't like as much as the books, so you'd be fine watching the program.
Yeah, and the horses are on the roof, so.
Oh my god. Ghost is in the casting couch.
Oh,
No,
damn.
no.
Okay, that would be loud.
Alright, I'm just buying this for him. Hold on.
We can't exclude him. Actually, no.
Actually, we're gonna end the
bring him up here.
podcast. You just bought me hentai Nazi. God damn it.
Oh, it's a good
No.
game. Promise. I promise, it's a good game.
What a mad lad.
I gave that to Rexield.
Thank you for
Walki.
taking that to Rick, so.
Oh yeah, shout out to
Yeah,
Rexio for helping me fix my hold fast when it was stuck. Thank you.
Oh, okay. 21 by 9 resolution is fixed and it's fucking amazing.
Boy.
So good.
Shout out to the widescreen gang.
All right.
Shout out to the widescreen.
All two of you.
Oh god.
Me and Mamba.
Mama, take your webcam right now and show us your monitors.
My monitor.
Oh, here we go.
It might be. Hold on.
Singing copyright music.
Let me try.
Oh no.
There's gonna be some stream lag. Oh boy.
You're gonna get
Actually,
Mamba banned, JV.
Just got a general question for Refleax.
It's like
That's
that big.
Yeah, I'm still here.
excuse me. I wanted to ask, so I guess it's just a general question, but honestly, how's it feel to, like, after all this time, finally make it to this point? Cavalier just coming out, like, as a dev and been putting all this time and effort into the game. Like, it's been, what, 2.5 years? About to be coming up on 3 or something like that?
Yeah, we spent another 3 in development as well prior to early access, and it's been a little bit over 2 years within early access. However, I'm very, very happy about the progress that we've made. We're a very small team, and the scope of this game was extremely big. With the game being on that's one way to put it. The game being on both naval, coastal, and land-based as well. It has its challenges, to say the least. But yeah, I'm very, very proud.
I just like
appreciate
to.
you guys at Reflex.
Yeah.
Much love.
Appreciate you guys
for
coming.
making this. Thank you
Round
for
of applause.
existing.
Yes.
Thank you for coming onto the podcast.
Thank
It's
you for
been a
existing,
great
guys.
time.
Much
Hell yeah.
Also, thank you for letting me test Cav during the closed beta. That was amazing. It was fun. Good times.
Yes.
Alex Roth knows quite well those times. Other than that, yeah, thank you guys.
Thank
All
you.
right, final
I'm gonna
thoughts.
come work for AGS when I'm done with my schooling, so I'm gonna be on this panel as well.
You have to live in Malta though.
I'm
Yeah,
fine
well-
with that. It's a Commonwealth country.
Or just send us a message, right? If you're ever here and we can meet up, I can show you around the island a bit.
Alright.
Yeah.
Accepting any unpaid interns.
So wait, Holdfast meet up in Malta when?
Yes, hold fast con. Hold fast con.
Hold
24
Yes.
Full Con and Malta, all Regis represent with your own flags there.
Yeah,
It's
you
2020.
dress up.
The
You have to
party
dress up
will
right.
just be like just dumb, quiet. Hay Bells walks in, everyone just goes crazy.
Happy birthday, hey,
Basically, that's
Bells.
gonna
No,
happen.
what you do is
Hey,
what you
Bill
do
will not be
is
allowed.
everyone gets everyone
Ban
gets
hay bells from Holdfast.
everyone gets Holdfast airsoft muskets. And
One
then
giant-
we 200
Nerf
people
bayonets.
on a battlefield
someone has
recreated.
the right
Get the
idea.
devs to fight each other with bayonets.
And then you got people. no, and then you got melee switch the spinning circle. Like IRL.
Oh,
Just
wait.
if we gave a musket to Dundane, he'd go mad. Start hitting everyone.
I think someone has a better idea here in chat. It's at 50-gun frigate booze cruise in Malta.
Mamba, we gotta have another one of these panel discussions to figure out like the top 50 or top 25 meleeers and Holdfast of all time.
Oh,
Make a big top list.
You know what? Actually, so there was a recent update on the server end where you could output CSV files of like the KDA, like how many kills, death, and assists you got. What would be cool is if you could on the leaderboard have that data go to the leaderboard and then basically have a KDA chart, like who's the best in the game.
Jon Snow.
Also, in terms of the people watching, when these podcasts are going to be hosted, I'm pretty sure it's just every time an update comes out or whenever we feel like it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I can come back to the leaderboard question if you really want to.
Yeah, let me know
practically
because
speaking-
I know I
yes,
asked
That leaderboards.
Practically speaking,
Excited
about the
cheer.
leaderboards, they are publicly available. You can query them with the web API. So if anyone is really motivated, you can like build a dashboard website where you can actually show data like that. So they are actually exposed.
Ooh.
Oh, so kind of.
If you have documentation, send it to me.
It's just a normal web API. You just have to query the leaderboards of Holdfast.
Because
of the
okay,
API
so
and
yeah, I have this program I use a lot called Tableau. It's basically just a data visualization tool, And if I could get that like web link or something and attach it, like the API, that would be cool.
Okay,
Get paid.
I believe what we're recording right now is the overall kills, right, and scores, right, not per match. So
No, it's not per match.
Can
That's
we get a
It's
GoFundMe
overall.
going for HoldFastCon?
So
How much plane tickets the motor are gonna be from
You know, I am
organic
really
players?
down to do this.
Wait, hold on.
on the leaderboards, could somehow we have like it? It's gonna be a little controversial, but can we have it like reset like every month and like have the history be posted? Like you have like the top 5 people of every month, and you can just go back in time and look at them. But
At
every
this
month,
point, this is just like
seasons.
ranked in like Overwatch or something.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a rank reset. Oh, this guy's like a
New
plat
season every
3
month.
guard.
Originally, we wanted to do like a seasonal leaderboards, right? So every three months or 4 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Would
Also,
reset.
I know
But-
it sounds unreasonable, right? But it would be cool to have like a separate leaderboard for EUA and I don't know if there's an A server, but to keep track of who's performing the best in the line battle events, that'd be cool.
The biggest flex.
I mean, it's only EU8 then, right? Because
Yeah.
all the other ones are hosted privately, and you can't.
I mean, like Walki said, there's a API web connector. Like someone could use that web connector and attach it to any data analysis tool, and do that.
From what I understood, isn't that the one from the actual leaderboards in game?
Yes, it is for actual leaderboards in game. But
Oh,
if you
so it's not- okay.
if you save the scoreboard, right, then you can pretty much get the data and do whatever you want with it. It saves directly to a CSV file, and it saves the kills and deaths of each and every person for each and every match.
And that
after the server
from the leaderboard, not from the server, correct?
No, this is from the scoreboard. Like so, previously you were mentioning how you can now save the scoreboard directly into the notepad and then output it to a CSV file, right?
Yeah.
You can use that data to build up your own leaderboards if you want to, since it gets saved after each and every round. And you can define which rounds you want to actually collect the data from, so that you don't have like the first setup rounds be able to equate into whatever data you are collecting, right?
But isn't that like a server side log, or is that like upload? Are the scoreboard stuff uploaded to the lead board, right? So if I tried building something, where would I be pulling the data from?
It's directly from the log file after the round ends.
So from the CSV file.
From your own server.
Yes, from the CSV
Okay.
file. Exactly,
Okay.
from your own server.
I mean, I was gonna say like it'd be cool to like from the leaderboard, like how it's set up, having that kind of KDA stuff up there.
I see. But then it would be global and only for the official servers, of course, right? Because
Yeah,
you can't
I
do
was
the trust.
saying it that way.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's
the
something-
private hosters could do what they want. Who got MS Paint up?
I don't know. It's an Aaron.
Walki, I believe you're already saving the data, right? For kills and deaths.
Yeah,
Unless
so
I'm
as
wrong.
you stated, they're global. Like we don't preserve match data. Like we don't preserve like which match they were made in. We just have a total count.
Yes. It's a total count.
Okay. All right, I got nothing else. We should probably wrap it
Yeah,
up.
we've
It's
actually
taking some
covered all
time.
our topics with that.
Yeah.
We covered very
This was
much.
good.
Can everyone just say a big thank you for the developers and our special guest here for coming out? And of
Ola
course,
Ford.
Thank
Thank you, Walki. Thank you, Reflex. Thank you, Ola Ford.
And thanks,
Much
Reflex
love,
and Walki,
AGS.
for coming.
another
My
round of
pleasure.
applause for the great community that we
And,
have.
Thanks for everyone who showed up to the podcast.
No claps.
This will be uploaded on YouTube, so there will be a link to that. Either
shoot
in
a like,
our
comment,
dis-
and subscribe.
Also, I don't think I can't speak. The developers get enough love for being active in the community as they are.
That's true.
You don't know how many games are so distant from their developers, and
Exactly.
we are so blessed not to have that.
I do enjoy seeing Reflex and Rexiel and all of them on like after a big update.
Yeah,
he was.
man.
Rexiel was playing
I'm
today.
honored to get
That's-
killed by
Oh,
Rexiel on the field.
Be in a random private event and just kill Rexiel and be like, I must leave the event now.
So proud of this
I
community.
gotta uninstall now.
My life
Well,
is complete.
Just
We're
thank
gonna-
you guys for existing in
yeah.
the first place.
Thank
Much
you for
love.
making so many
Yeah.
people's lives so much happier.
My Napoleonic
Yeah,
quote,
I
unquote,
wouldn't.
gets
I wouldn't know the friends that I do without this game. To be quite honest.
All right,
I
we're
would
gonna
still be a lonely man trapped in my room forever.
JV, there's no wall behind you.
So
there's a
we're
window right
gonna wrap it
You
up.
are like
Thank you
I go.
everyone
person
to
so
come.
bad.
Thank you guys for coming to the Casting Couch podcast. It was a great time. We're gonna do this again, probably next update or something
On
like
the
that.
next quote unquote major update
Or
coming
I mean,
soon.
we could even
Oh,
do
yeah.
something for like.
Walki leaked that there's going to be another major update coming, which has sparked lots of speculation.
That was Reflex that said it, not me.
Yes,
but-
exactly.
Wait, actually, real quick. Reflex and Walki, what can you say?
Well,
For
what I can
future.
say is that Walker knows what's coming, so you can bother him for the next few weeks. Maybe you can get
Ping Discord PM's gonna be lighting up.
Oh boy, this is the reason. This is the reason why I didn't swap on my fucking webcam, so you can't see my reactions to stuff.
Yeah, that's fine.
wow. That's
Turn it
kind
on,
of
turn it on,
shameful.
turn it on.
200
turn it on,
IQ.
turn it on.
Mostly cringe, I assume.
No, that's okay.
You
He
can
doesn't have to
see
turn it on.
30
in the
seconds,
reflection of his
please.
eyes him working on the code for answers.
That's okay. No one on this podcast is required to turn on their webcam. So yeah.
Most of us don't have them.
All right. So I'm gonna end the stream here. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you all for
Until
coming.
next time.
Yes, thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, AG.